that shot.
Low key.
Crazy.
Yeah,
And now
it's
on
weird it was this
Spider-Man.
year.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Get out the face! Get out the face! Hans, get off the face!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the GeekVerse podcast. 433 episodes. You saw a little preview. You know what? I gotta start playing that more. We made that a long time ago. Because we originally, what happened, so obviously the audio people, they always hear the theme song. But the video, usually we just start. The only reason we made that opening is like, well, if we ever need to kill air or something, we can throw this on at the beginning. But you know what? Just throw, it's nice 30 seconds. You know, it gets you hyped. It's great seeing all those great moments going back. You know, we've done 433 of these plus like a lot more because there's so many episodes that aren't. So I'm stole my father's love trust now, and I'm joined by
Back to formula, Kirklin Patzer. There's so many like laughs and good times in those old days. What happened to us? We don't laugh anymore.
We're just begging
now.
for money. That's why.
Yeah.
No, that's a good. Like you know, we joke about that, but I got to give a shout for everybody that liked our last episode because I think talking about laughs, we had some really good laughs on that one, and lots of people really liked that. So thank you for that. We're gonna talk about this. We got some fun news to talk about. I haven't seen that in a while. Family like, yeah, no, we haven't. And you know what? I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep doing it, and then in the future I'll update it. But it's been a minute. But yeah, it's man, it's. I feel like I'm a little flustered because we've podcast so much. People don't know we did 2 last night. We did about pretty much 3 hours of podcasting last night, so it was a lot. And then we got this, but we are all on the road because we got a very fun cast tonight. We got lots of Spider-Man and MCU news. We had a interview with Amy Pascal who dropped some bombs, and I don't know. It's gonna be some interesting conversations. So. Taylor's not here, so he did make the thumbnail, which I want to shout out. He made it just on time. Did you see the thumbnail?
No, I haven't.
So I
It went
did
up
ask
quick.
him to do one. Yeah, go look at it. I asked to do one request, and you'll see it when you see it. And I'm very happy he did it. Now, one of the cutouts in the top is just the Marvel logo. So clearly he was running out of ideas. He just used the Marvel logo, which is fine. But the main image
I
is
see
of
it. I see it.
Tom Holland Spider-Man, and then you have Feige from the classic Amy Pascal interview. Way back in 2017 when she was talking about Tom Holland's gonna be Venom one day, and he just did this look, and we're gonna watch that because I have it ready to go. But yeah, Kirkland, where can they find us on our webs? Let's see you do this. You know,
They can find us at GeekVerse.ca. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Patreon. You can find us. Am I missing something? Where else are we? I feel like
we're everywhere. We're Google. You just search
Yeah.
Google and you find us. I remember there were so
It's an
many
easy bet.
like podcast platforms that we searched and we didn't even know we were on them at one point. I was like, they don't, and people don't even ask you. Like some ask you for permission, like, oh, could you be on our thing? It's like, oh yeah, sure. Other ones, no, they're just like, oh yeah, you're a part of Podflow. It's like, oh,
You're one of
okay.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Here's your
you know.
flyer. You're part of the
Yeah.
email blast.
And I sometimes wonder, like, are they monetizing themselves off us, or is it just who knows? But Clay says some of the best news for Stanley's favorite studio making more movies. I don't think A24 is making a Spider-Man movie. And that's what I would kill. I'd kill
Stuff with Florence Pugh.
as Peter Parker. Not even
As Peter Parker?
Yeah, not even as a woman.
could do it.
Yeah. Florence. No, I definitely would want to be Willem because Willem and A24 are already working together with the Lighthouse and stuff. Like just a really deep dive about Goblin and like really like what if he didn't die? But
It's like a Joker style, but like Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
slowly about his father issues and issues with his son and stuff like that. And I love them trying to make
Going
a really
back to
realistic,
formula.
yeah, trying to make a really realistic glider and stuff like that, and just not working
Fuck
out.
yeah. Do it.
Yeah, why not? Who cares? We're about to do everything. So, this is Newscast. We do about 2 of these a week. We also have our weekly Dexter Retros, our weekly Hawkeye, or not retro, sorry, reviews. weekly Chucky reviews, which just got renewed for a season 2. So I think, S-Pubs, anytime you can shut up the Logan style Gollum movie, you can. That meme of like someone needs to make a Logan style Buzz Lightyear movie, and they did it. But weekly reviews. So yeah, I'm sure Taylor will be hyped about that. That Chucky got renewed for a season 2. So he's happy. And you know what? I'm enjoying the show. If you like the Chucky lore, go check out the show. And most importantly, go check out his reviews. You know, I got to catch up and listen to him. I've actually been listening to his Cryptid Clues episodes because I got a backlog. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to dive deep in this, and man, it's just they sometimes sound so wacky, but you know what, they're passionate, and I'm excited to be on the show one day. And it's not that I'm not a believer of some things, it's just that it's I want to ask them like all the ones they've covered, because so far I'm probably about 8 or 9 in, and never once do they come to the conclusion that this could be a fake or a hoax. Like they believe like most of the stuff. Like there's some things they think are hoaxes, but yeah, one day I want to go on with it's like the red-faced gorilla or something like that. I can't remember. It's a scary looking one. Hang on, I gotta look it up.
Is it the devil, the New Jersey Devil?
No, I listened to that one. That one to me sounded fake. I talked like just it sounded like someone had a grudge against a family and they lied that they had some demon baby or something like that.
I was lucky enough to be a guest on it, and I brought my cryptid, I guess, to the cast, and I feel like I was the most sus out of both of us, and I'm the one that brought it there. I don't know. It was a fun one to talk about, but yeah, I think I could have picked a more believable one. I just wanted to talk about the logical side of this possibly being a thing, and yeah, it's good times. Taylor's fun, and he's passionate about it, and we had a great time just talking. So it doesn't matter what the subject is. I feel like we could just go for hours and hours, and it was fun to actually have I don't know, a trajectory.
Yeah.
You find it?
No, I asked him what's in it because he always gets me. It's like I looked it up and I never get it. But yeah, so head down in the description below. You can find all our links. If you want to give us a 1-star about talking about monkeys, then go ahead. That's where you can do it. But yeah, there, Patreon. You can get comic book versions right now early. You can get a bunch of stuff early, exclusive, and ad-free. And the more you support us, the more content we can create because of you guys. We did comic versions, but also the skunk ache. Okay, we're gonna look that up in a second. But
he's
because,
quick, my God.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, anytime it's about cryptid, he feels that it's like a spider sense or his Peter tingle.
It's a different type of notification on his phone.
Exactly, it comes up as red and stuff like that. But and it's like blaring, doon. Normal person talked about a cryptid. But what was I gonna say? And yeah, because of you guys' support, we will be doing the Matrix retro. I'm very excited. I think we're gonna have some good conversations that one. I haven't watched it in a couple of years. It's not been like a super long time, but I think maybe I don't remember last year or this year or last year. So maybe it's been about 2 years. But I'm excited to talk about those because those are some movies that changed the game. And I don't know how this fourth one's going to do. I'm going to say that for Thursday because if we are low on topics, but I'm just curious because it just feels like we have a new Matrix movie coming out, and it's just a thing, you know. I guess it's just that problem when you're coming out right beside a Spider-Man movie. It's kind of tough, you know. It's just. I completely forgot.
Interesting.
Clay says he completely forgot about the plot of 3. Most people did.
I've seen the first one so many times. It's very memorable.
Yeah.
I feel like I could piece together each scene. I can't even tell you what happens in the second or the third one. I know I've seen them at one point in time because I don't know. I feel like I just had the DVDs when we were younger, and I don't know. I feel like most people I talk about with them, they're like, oh yeah, those are definitely the most forgettable I don't know, movies in the series. I'd say 3 over 2. Like more people have seen 2 than 3, or just as more memorable.
Well,
I can't even pick a scene from 3. At least with 2, I know they have the keymaker guy, and then that's pretty much all I remember.
Well, 2, you got to remember the twins too. They had those albino dreaded twins.
Yes.
3,
and go through walls.
Well, and 2, I guess it also had that opening of him and fighting a bunch of Mr. Smiths and everything like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
but 3 had, because 3 he gets blinded, but 3 also had that huge fight scene with Mr. Smith and Neo in the city when who's the there's like a older woman in a kitchen. It's like the prophet or someone like that.
The Oracle.
The Oracle, yeah. So Mr. Smith, we're gonna go over this, steals all her powers, and then they have a Superman Zod fight at the end of 3. I'm not sure if you remember this, where they're throwing through the city and they're hitting each other.
I don't remember that at all. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I was younger, the plot was oh, this isn't the greatest, but it was to me, this was man, if we got a Superman movie right now, this is what it could be. And I feel like we did we did kind of get that with Man of Steel to an extent. Yeah, no, we did. I guess it's just because I didn't love that movie. I didn't appreciate it in the moment. But with Matrix, I was like, wow, look at this. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'm very excited for that fourth one. I'm excited for just in general because I think even if it's like kind of like the other ones where it's not the greatest, it's gonna be a good review. So like, look at this thing. So yeah, I'll try to pull. This is the Skunk Ape. I should probably try and pull it up on the Google share or whatnot.
Discern what that image is.
It's hard to see, you know. So I'll try and find it later after we're talking.
Looks freaky.
Yeah.
But yeah,
big.
just on the top of Matrix 4, I feel like no matter what happens with the movie, Keanu I think will still be great. So I don't know. I'm semi positive on it. Like, is that his eyes?
Yeah, those are his
glowing there?
eyes. I'm gonna have to pull it up at some point. Skunk Ape, hell yeah. There's Taylor. You know, night off, and he's in the chat because we're talking about the cryptids. But
He could
Yeah,
smell
so-
us talking about it, so he just popped on here. I'm telling you.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're talking about the cryptids. Yeah, but yeah, we got tons of fun stuff because then even in January, we have some really fun because we did the town hall and lots of people said one of their favorite contents is drafts and like the awards and whatnot. We got some really fun kind of evergreen content. I'm very excited. I don't even want to announce it yet, but the draft, I'm really hyped on the one I shared you guys. I don't know if you're gonna be hyped as me, but as someone that used to do fantasy football, I'm really excited to do this one, and people don't even know. So look out for that. Patrons, you'll probably get that first, but it's gonna be a good thing. Taylor using his Morbius, but radar to locate cryptid discussions. Yeah, exactly. I can hear them in the whatever. But yeah, and again, as always, I don't know this. This is why right now, if you're listening, go listen to DC Alliance because they're very close. But a big thank you to everyone because I think Kirklin kind of knew this. But either way, yesterday, 3 days with still to go of the month, we again had our biggest month ever. It is like I say this every month, and I feel stupid. I don't know what else to say because we are now 9 months since Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that's when it really kicked off. And then we've had biggest month after biggest month. GUA is very close, so they might be having their 7th biggest month. Marvel Alliance just had their biggest month. GUA and Marvel Alliance had their biggest day. Star Wars Alliance actually had their biggest month. Like not everything, but lots of things that we're doing. You guys are just supporting and sharing and helping us grow and helping us keep sponsors and stuff like that. Like, just a huge thank you, and I thank you because like I'm very excited for this next month, and it is like gratifying because it is a thing like it. Not joking so much, but there's times where it's like, oh yeah, we're like I said, we just did so much podcasting last night, and then we're doing this. It's like, but it's showing that the work's paying off. So just a big thank you to if you just even listen to one episode here and there, we really appreciate it. And yeah, we're just excited for the next year. We best year yet. You know, this has been best year yet, and the next year. And as I've said before, though, I said this to Emily, my expectations, and maybe it's bad habit, my expectations is next month it's going to happen again for both GUA and this, just because Spider-Man's coming out, and we kind of know like. And we're going to talk about that with tickets. You kind of get a sense when movies are getting that momentum. It's kind of like what we talked about Eternals, right? Like it wasn't our biggest episode, but it was one of our biggest of the year. And it's one of those things like when there's enough chatter about something, you kind of get the sense of like, okay, this is going to do pretty good numbers. Spider-Man with the ticket sales, which we'll talk about, it's going to do some good numbers. So if we can do December, and I don't expect January because January, all we got is like Morbius pretty much, and that's it. But if we can get to 10 months, that's very impressive. That's a great walk off, and yeah, I'm very excited. But even for the 9 months, even if it doesn't happen, it's crazy. So a big thank you to everybody.
I feel like this year has been like a sleeper best year yet. Like you know, like the Endgame year, it was like, yeah, this is gonna be best year. Yeah, you could just tell. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the one that called it, but like I
That's
feel
true.
like everything was just aligning for that to happen. You have, you know, the release of Endgame, like a full packed theater, whereas now we're just not able to have that due to COVID. So it's at best half capacity, and there has been a lot of great stuff coming out. I feel like the big stuff was probably the Disney Plus shows, just
100%.
with like
WandaVision
Loki,
was the big kickoff. Like in
WandaVision,
January,
yeah.
it was that release of finally getting new content of like, oh, a new show to talk about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like I don't know, I think just because it's not like a huge movie that you're leading up to, it's you're seeing these episodes week by week. It's easy to kind of, I don't know, at least for me, like make it seem smaller, even though it is such a big deal, and it's fun because you gotta, you know, theorize from each week and then leading into the next episode, just as what we were doing, staying up to watch it, and it was just like a full-on event, and we got to do that multiple times, and we're doing that right now with Hawkeye. Like it's been a great year in that sense, but like I said before, I feel like it's a sleeper just because it's easy to, I don't know, like think it's smaller than what it was.
Well, I think also too because like dates were always getting shuffled around and whatnot. We never
Yeah.
really knew when stuff was coming. Like even Spider-Man a few months ago, like when we got that first trailer, and they gave us the you right there.
Clonked me right in the eye. You saw that?
Yeah, I did.
Jeez.
I was gonna let
Need
go, but I
safety
had to
specs.
call it out. Yeah, gotta get Taylor's blockers or whatever. But yeah, I think it's because like even when we got that first trailer of Spider, we were like, oh, are they gonna keep the December date? Like, is that gonna stick? You know, and that's where it's been. It's been crazy. I think I've said that before. I just actually did an interview with Heinz. He's doing something for school and whatnot, and I said that where I think the same way everyone's wanted to get back in the routine of seeing movies, I think the podcasting happened too, because we've always said COVID, like that, those were some of our lowest months with the new audience, because I think there was just nothing, to talk about, but I think people just in general were like deflated. But I think it was like they kind of want that back together life of like, okay, we got the movies back. I want to be listening to podcasts, listen to theories and stuff like that. And we just appreciate that you're still, out of all the ones, not like Polino when we talked about on Vodka Stream who unsubscribed, you stuck with us and we're very thankful for that. But you know who's sticking together is apparently Marvel and Sony. So yeah, this kind of came out of nowhere. So I first want to talk about how was your ticket going experience, Kirkland? Because we had to manage this. We were recording a podcast last night, so it worked out for us. But in the long run, I was like, man, that was kind of a mistake, you know. So and like, look at what SBO's, what we were just talking about. I mean, there are going to be 9 Marvel Studio projects this year.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Probably like a record or something, and that is nuts. And you don't even think about it because we're spoiled now. But I think because of COVID, you don't even think like, oh, are we gonna get this? Are we gonna? And then when we do get it, it's kind of like, oh, we're lucky. But yeah, how was your ticket experience for everybody? Because if people don't know, I'm sure you do. If you listen to this podcast, sites around like the world, not just Canada, like crashed apps and everything like that. And it was like, it was a Black Friday balls to walls. Like we got to get these tickets right now.
Yeah, it was it was interesting. I feel like it like kind of caught up to me. Like just Spider-Man ticket sales are out. Like as we are recording our episodes, it's like, oh, how many weeks away from Spider-Man now? And like it's closer than it's ever been, but it still
Less than
just
3.
feels. Yeah, I think it still just feels ways away because
Yeah.
I don't know. For whatever reason, it just does. But then now that I actually have my ticket. Spoiler alert, I was able to get through and get my ticket. But now that I actually have it, I feel like it's so close now, and it's, gosh, I can almost taste it. We're going back to formula, Travis. It's crazy. But yeah, my ticket going experience, I was, we have an app, Atom app, tied to Landmark. Travis, explain.
Apparently Americans have it too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have Landmark theaters in America?
I don't think so, no, but they definitely have that app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I thought it was just like solely tied to Landmark. I don't know why it would be. It's not like it, because the Cineplex app is obviously just for Cineplex, but
It must be whatever the American, or I guess they just had an app and they're just like, hey, you want to work with us? Where Cineplex already made like their own app, and then they're
Yeah.
like, hey, or use ours. But now they're just like, hey, can you you want to partner with us?
Yeah.
Like, sure, So because I'm sure
That's
there's
a
some
good
sort of
point.
split or something like that. But yeah, that's where I got mine was Adam too.
yeah, I went on the Atom app and it was hilarious because as Travis already prefaced, like we were casting at the time, and I'm like messaging him. It's like, oh yeah, I'm getting my tickets right now, and you're like, I only see Penticton, which is not the town that we're in, and I was literally buying the tickets for like that theater in Penticton. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, or I would have I would have just assumed I had awesome seats and awesome
Oh,
tickets,
man.
and then I would have gone into today, and then they're basically all sold out now. At least like the prime seating, that would have been sad, a sad experience.
Or it would have
But,
been worse. You would have showed up opening night with your Penticton tickets. Like that would have been a kick. to
That
the
is
nuts.
where I'm just like crying, like in public. I'm just so sad. From what I could see, Adam in the U.S. just sells tickets forever. Yeah, interesting. They must have just a partnership with Landmark up here in the north. But
So you said, from what I could tell, where are you from, S-Bubs? I want to know. You don't got to give us your whole license plate and everything like that, but where are you, in America or whatnot? But yeah, no, I had a similar one as far as, it's funny because I've been talking about for weeks as far as, and I'm still not taking this back 100%. The whole like, oh, you don't show Toby and Andrew, you lose a little marketing. And I still think you do a little bit, but at the same point, like last night, if any Sony exec wanted to spit in my face, like the Bro Mafia did to Penny, which we talk about in comic book versions coming up, the ticket sales prove that even without showing them, the hype is palpable. You know, like the hype is like this to me reminded me, and I think this is because I like my seats. I would have got like a little further back. I'm sitting right in front of you, so that's gonna be fun though. And I did want to actually see it on the west side and try to see it together because we used to all do that at GV, but then it was just like, oh well, this works better for me. Oh, this works better for me. But this one, it's like, oh, I want to be when Willem Dafoe is on screen. I want to look back and be like, man, look at this shit. But like, it felt like Force Awakens and Endgame. Those are the two times that I remember having like, okay, I really got to get there. It's funny, Endgame, I remember being like a big, like, oh, we got to get the tickets. But I remember getting them like pretty easily. Like I felt like we got them. And then I heard people talk about crashes after. And I was like, oh, I was just lucky. Force Awakens, I remember being a bitch. Is like the website was frozen and crashed and like you couldn't get tickets. I remember that was really tough. And then it's like, we got them luckily. And that was also tougher too because we were trying to buy for like, oh, us and Dylan and like Jessica's going, but she's going to a different show. But it was like, oh, Briggs, oh, and Kyle's coming. So it's like, can we all try and get one showing together, you know? And that was because we used to do right after the movie. And that it did feel like that last night of like, I had 5 browsers open. I'm looking because the thing for us too, we have 2 theaters here in Kelowna. We didn't know, is it going to go to the Cineplex or Landmark? And that was the thing going back and forth, like, because Cineplex was crashing, like, oh, it must be Cineplex because, you know, that's why it's crashing here. But it was crashing everywhere. And even for Heinz today, the tickets for his theater, they went on sale today at 12 p.m. Eastern, and the thing still crashed. It's still he took him about an hour to get tickets and stuff, and he got them. But
yeah,
it was it's I don't know. It's one of those things of like, yeah, it's a pain, but I like the moviegoer in me kind of loves it. Did I drop out there for a second?
Yeah, you glitched out a little bit.
Oh,
Keep going though.
The moviegoer in me, like, I love that because it's feeling like, oh man, we're getting back to that movie thing. And yeah, like, because the one we have 2 theaters here. One is not doing social distancing, and then the one we're going to is, but it's very loose as far as like you buy a seat and then there's an X and then there's a seat right after. Where usually it's like, hey, you buy one, then there's like 3 X's, so you can't buy those, and then it's separated. What I feel like because this, they're like, okay, well, as long as you're vaccinated, we want to get that Spider Monday, you know, like we gotta, you know, and I looking at the theater, I feel like this is gonna be the closest experience we had to a movie pre-pandemic that we've had since probably Rise of Skywalker, like unfortunate as that is, but that was the last big movie I feel before pandemic. There was other ones, but that was like the biggest one I feel, you know. Absolutely.
And it's like you're already saying, like it's really exciting just to have that feeling again of like something that we've all been looking forward to, and it's already showing with just people trying to get tickets on how quickly it's just filling up, and people have hype for it. GA members have a lot of hype for it. Like, yeah, even people that probably aren't even fully caught up on the MCU, they're just excited to see Spidey back. And just, I feel like that trailer is so just, it can sell so many people on it. And just seeing Alfred Molina, you know, or the classic Green Goblin suit, like, I think just those things are major variables in just getting general audience members and just everyone hyped for this. And yeah, it was funny though, because you said you had like 5 browsers open. I had my web browser, and then I had on my phone, and I just kept like refreshing. And then when I eventually got through, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be able to get like prime seats. I couldn't believe how many it was like already taken. I'm like, oh no, okay, let's take this spot. And like you said, I'm not in my prime seating. I'm pretty good spot, but I'm still like off to the right.
Yeah, I feel like we're like middle right. That's where we are. And I still like to be middle. And even then, I'd still like to be one more over middle right. But it's like, due to the circumstances, like, this is what I'll take because I don't want to see in 3D. And I appreciate that the extreme screen is non-3D. That's our biggest one. Yeah, we don't have IMAX here, unfortunately. So I was like, okay, thank God. So I was like, okay, these are good enough, you know. And if I love the movie, I'll see it again, you know.
Typically, when I'm going to movies like that, I'll just get like the regular standard non-3D, just, you know, the whatever that is, because I feel like most people go for the extreme theater just because it's more packed. On a movie like this, it's like, I gotta get that extreme. I gotta get that extreme audio. You know, saw Venom 2 on that screen.
Wait till you hear that goblin laugh, man. It's gonna be crazy. So
exactly, the same theater we saw Endgame in too. So it's pretty. I don't know. There's some magic in that. There theater.
Is. Yeah. So I want to ask. So now with this hype, I want to, because we talked about how I was gonna do for like the year and whatnot. I wanted to look at, because people already are like, oh, like, look, it's because we won't know, I think, for a day or two. Maybe when people are listening to this, we'll know like how it's doing, like ticket sales before. But I know people, I guess I just don't want to get too ahead of myself because people are like, man, this is similar to Endgame. Could we see Endgame numbers? I still think that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we still have like many people that either are not going to see it because they're comfortable, or they're not going to see it because they're not vaccinated. So it's like there's still going to be a hit. I don't think it will, like, especially near the end. Like Endgame ended up making like $3 billion, stuff like that. But opening weekend, I could see something like that. But even Endgame, like, it's such a jump. Like, you look at Infinity War, that was the second biggest opening weekend of all time. At the time, it was number one with 250 million thousand. Fuck. 250 million as the opening weekend, and then Endgame did a whole 100 million jump to 350. And like after that, you got Star Wars, Force Awakens, you got Last Jedi, Jurassic World, The Avengers, Black Panther, Lion King, Incredibles. I can't believe Incredibles 2 is like so high up there, but it's like I'm very curious, like, how do you feel? We talked about doing in the predictions, like, how's it going to do compared this year? How do you think, like, the overall opening weekend is going to compare to something like an Endgame, where obviously that was an end of a big franchise, that was the closing of a chapter, non-pandemic stuff like that, where this, obviously, they are showing, hey, there's old elements. You have those whispers of Toby, and Andrew, and everything like that. And maybe I'd be interested to see if the GA, how much they're catching on. But, like, I told two people. I told my mother, because, I want her be in on the situation. I guess my sister, she was there too, but then I remember I told my father-in-law, it was so funny. So I tell him like, oh, like we need to sit there like for this day and everything like that. And he's like, oh, what are you guys seeing? Like, oh, Spider-Man. He sees enough superhero ones, and he's like, oh, so like who, like, is it still that young guy as Spider-Man? And I go, oh, actually, it's all of them are coming back. And he did this, like he did like a really intrigued like, and I've never seen my father-in-law do that phase, and like for a comic book movie. And I think because the people that have no fucking clue what the multiverse is are just gonna get fucking shell shocked. So I do think, like, which sucks, like we were talking about for Matrix 2, that second weekend you're gonna have those pickup people like, oh, they are in it, I'm gonna go see it. But I do wonder if they are lucky enough that the GA have people like myself, like I am telling everybody I know, like, hey, they're gonna be in this movie, and even if there's no trailer, it's like, trust me. And I like I said, I still think there's some money left on the table, but maybe you'll get that second weekend. So how do you think it's gonna do, like, in the overall grand scheme of things when it's said and done? Like I said, a number like Endgame, $357 million opening weekend. That's a big feat. That's a tough one.
Well, this movie's going to be really interesting to see numbers wise, because Endgame, that was like the best case scenario of the best situation. No
all
pandemic
the stars
or anything.
aligned.
All the stars aligned. Everybody was able to see this movie in like basically all countries. Like, it was just fill up the theaters, and like that's where they just made their super bank from it. So this is, with a lot of restrictions, I think this is going to be the best pandemic era movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still tough for me to think it could be like anywhere near those numbers, just because there's still a lot of COVID cases out there. A lot of people are still freaked out to like go to public spaces, and
there's variants all the time kicking up, being like, hey, we're not done.
Exactly, like we're getting so close to the movie, and then this new variant is popping off, and it's a whole nother thing to freak out about. So
yeah,
it's I don't know, like numbers wise, like I don't know, like it is half the money. Like, is that too bold of a prediction?
Well, let's take a look. Half of that. So do some math for me. What would be half of? So that'd be 125 million, right? No, I'm low. What was
the
three? Let's just go even. 350. So it's 350. So what's 350 divided by 2? That's gonna be like
275.
175. So 175 would put that at, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it would be just shy of the top 10. It would be right by Rise of Skywalker and Civil War, which, again, it's so funny, again, how we talk about Star Wars. Fucking Rise of Skywalker, 12th biggest opening of all time. It's still considered like didn't do as good as those last. It's just like $1 billion movie. Like, that's how bad people are. Like, and that's, I always try to say, like,
spoiled.
Yeah, that's why I try to say, like, we need the sequel characters. You know why? Because, like, 12th biggest opening of all time and $1 billion movie for its third movie. Fuck these people that didn't like it. There's an audience right there. But yeah, so it would put it just under the top 10. So I could see it. I think 200 million is possible, which is puts it in like Black Panther Avengers number. Avengers is 207, Black Panther is 202. I could see it, but again, when people, this is why I want a preference when people are like, oh well, the site's crashing, mean like it's gonna do really well, and I could be completely wrong. Even Endgame, when those results came out, people were shocked that it like did so much better than Infinity War. Like it was almost like unheard of. Like these numbers were crazy. So this could be the same thing, but I think people got preferences like that's the first day, the first Friday, but I know it'll be busy all weekend. But I think there is just a rush to make sure that people want to be some of the first one. I will be interested. Because same thing. Travis, his tickets, he had to wait an hour. Brent could have gotten his tickets at night, but then when he woke up in the morning, he could get them. So it's like, is the crash or are the sites crashing because of the pure demand, or is it just because all the fanboys and girls at the same time are rushing to it because they know that's the sale day? And I'm not saying it's going to be a small number thing. I think it's going to be still massive for pandemic and past that, but it's going to be, like you said, a real test of like, okay, what can the biggest movie of the pandemic so far really do in this situation? And same thing with the site. If it goes in like that 12th or 11th spot, we'll go, okay, it's just people rush to get those day 1 or day 2 tickets, or maybe we're looking at like a top 5 or something like that, which would be tough, but it's possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that like hitting 200 is definitely possible, but I still feel like that's kind of a stretch. I'd be surprised if it hits that number.
Yeah.
And I think it won't be far off from that, but like if all the factors of COVID are at play here, like let's just say it's a perfect situation, like there is no COVID, people can do full capacity in theaters. Is this movie still as hype as what Endgame was? I feel like Endgame is such like a special occasion.
Well, that's why I always wondered too. Like, and Brent had a good comparison. He was talking about like, okay, well, people didn't know heroes get snapped, right? And they disappear. Everyone knows they're coming back, but they don't know they're coming back. It's kind of, you can compare that to Toby and Andrew, that people know they're there, but they don't know. I think it's still a little different because like, you saw those heroes disappear. You know, eventually we're going to win. Not everybody knows, but I think that if this was regular world, I think it could definitely have a shot at being the second or third. Like, I don't know if it could pass Infinity War. Cause like, I don't know. I guess it's just like how, like, we're going to find out about nostalgia. Cause at the same time though, that's Force Awakens, right? All those characters came back, made it massive. Yeah. So it's like, even then, even let's say there was no Toby and Andrew, are those villains enough just to push it to that point where they're like, man, we're seeing all these classic characters come back. This is awesome. Like, maybe it could be because Luke Skywalker wasn't in a single fucking piece of marketing for Force Awakens, and look how big it was, right? So that's the thing where it's like, it's going to be interesting. I love to see what's going to happen.
I think if it happens to surpass, something like that, or like Infinity War, or even just get close to those numbers, they would just go to show like the weight that not only just Spider-Man has, but like Toby, Willem Dafoe, Andrew Garfield, like the OGs has just on the market in this play.
Yeah.
And especially nostalgia. Nostalgia is such a bitch, right?
Yeah.
People want it.
Well, and I think that does two things. One, I think it makes Tom Holland's contract negotiations very interesting for the next set of movies he does if he gets to that numbers. But two, as I've said to many people, I think if they see these numbers, for me, it's hard for Sony to lay off the gas and not be like, let's do more with Toby. And like, how do they not do, like, even if you do, like, legitimately, they could do a movie titled Spider-Verse. And there's, like we've talked about before, there's stuff on the table. If you don't get a Kirsten Dunst, if you don't get maybe some other villains, if they leave Willem Dafoe alive, if, you could even then do You can even then do like a Miles Morales or like a Spider-Man 2099. There's so many possibilities in like a live action one as well that I don't know. I just feel like this is going to open the floodgates. And plus, I think it really sets up for Flash, because people I think will get excited for seeing the classic characters with this, and that one's different because Michael Keaton's coming, so I think that's gonna get people even more like, oh, if it could be like that. And then I think multiverses and these type of stuff this is what I want though. Some people don't like it. Bring all these people back. I want to see Ben Affleck as Daredevil again one more time. Like, do this. Let's have some fun. So I think
you want to see Halle Berry as Catwoman.
I think that's where I draw the line. I think that's probably one of the things. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. So let's take our first ad break, and then we're gonna talk about something more interesting, which is some more Spidey and MCU movies. So we'll be right back if I can find my tab. I can't find it at all. I found it. And we're back. So Amy Pascal was doing an interview and with Fandango, and they're talking about the movie and blah blah. And she said, like, the guy was talking about, like, oh, so after these set of movies, what's the plan for Spider-Man when are you gonna do Soul stuff? And then she said, like, oh, I'm gonna stop you right there. And I should find the specific quote. I will after when Kirkland's talking, but pretty much the gist of it is that she said, this is not going to be the last MCU Spider-Man movie. They have another trilogy planned with Tom Holland, and they are fully in, like, throw to, like, we're still in business together. And that's what she's saying. Now, I will pull up something for history's sake here, because this so Feige said this a few years ago or a year ago, maybe even this year. Fuck, we were talking about a time capsule. He said something like, I predict, like, the breakup wouldn't be as bad as last time, or something like that. He said, I don't imagine if he said that. Oh, it's not gonna be as bad. No, he said, like, I don't expect something like what happened last time, right? So even saying, like, oh, if we did part ways, it wouldn't be so dramatic. But he said that, and I was like, okay, that's just in the press. We haven't heard anything official. So she does this thing where she's like, okay, I'm gonna say that we're still planning to work together. So I think it's very possible, but I still want to share this video with everybody. Now, this was something that happened in 2017. This is
Brazilian. This Brazilian interview you got.
It's the only one I could find. It's the only one I could find. So there's gonna be no audio, but this is the classic clip of when she was asked, "Hey, is Tom Holland's going to be in the Venom
place
movies,
in the world that
and the thing
we are
is,
now
I gotta mute it 'cause
creating
she's
for?"
loud for me. And you look at Feige's face. Now, here's the thing: what happened? She said this, like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. He's gonna come to the Sony-Verse, and they're gonna be." She was saying that, "Oh, they'd be different movies, but it'd be happening in the same world." Like, yes, this is happening. This is not what he thinks at all. And what happened was, a week later, Kevin Feige came out and clarified.
We're glitching out. We're glitching out, people. Bear with us.
I got the best of luck tonight. He later came out and clarified of being like, hey, as Feige saying there won't be another split was 30 days ago. That's how fucking COVID's messing with my life and everything like that. Oh, there's the Ben Affleck meme, of course. So, but look at this look of his face.
He looks lost.
So all I'm saying, because that's why I still have, like, a question mark on the title of, she's saying this. It's not confirmed. I think it is. We're going to talk about right now like it is confirmed. But there is always a chance that this is her in the press saying, like, oh, yeah, for sure we're doing more. And it kind of puts them in a tough situation where it's like, oh, how do you backtrack that and everything? But like as Buzz pointed out, 30 days ago, he said that wouldn't be another split. So it's seeming like it's looking more and more likely. We had talked about this in the predictions and whatnot before that. It seems like Sony and Marvel are still going to be working together. How does that just feel for you now? Because I know we've talked about, but now that seems like it's kind of, we're getting close to that nail in the coffin of a new contract at least being put pen to paper.
You describe it so positively. The final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I know.
It kind of blows my mind, honestly, because we were talking about just Tom Holland going forward with our Spidey predictions cast, and just we've been talking about that for a while, ever since they had the dicey semi breakup thing that went on. And I was always in the camp of just like I felt like from Kevin Feige's perspective and Marvel, like, you don't need Spider-Man going forward. Like you could be happy with what you got from him. You have the trilogy, and then you have Infinity War, a little bit in Endgame, Civil War. Like, that's quite a few content in the MCU to have Spider-Man. And I don't know, like, because the whole end credit scene with Venom, I really thought that was like, okay, that's to get Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the Sony-Verse, not like a conjoined synergy type thing. And I wasn't expecting anything like this. I was fully accepting that we just were done with Tom Holland's Spider-Man after this final movie. I liked what I got
especially before
so
the
far.
movie, for her to be like, yeah, we're doing this more.
Very bizarre. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I know what will eventually be coming, because it'll be kind of what's shown off in the Sony-Verse, also what we've already seen in the Marvel-Verse. But I feel like I still can't, like, accept that it's happened, even though it's been, like, confirmed. It's just, what? No, I don't know. Maybe the end of No Way Home will lead somewhere a little, I don't know, somewhere in that direction that it makes sense. But as of right now, it's hard to palate.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, I guess I do always got to bring up, and I wonder if we just should have saw this, like the Feige thing happen. We got that show announcement of freshman year, right? And then we have this, like, for me, like, this is when you're in a relationship and you know someone's about to dump you or say like, oh, we should separate, but you're like trying to ignore the signs. And I feel like from Feige's statement to that show to this, it's like you no longer can ignore the signs, so you have to look over and just like, oh, this is over, right? And I feel like that's what's happening right now. And I was gonna say, what is the benefit? The benefit is, of course, money, right? Because like Marvel gets a like / Disney gets a cut. People always forget about this. They have the rights to everything else, merchandising wise, like the toys and the merch and like the t-shirts and stuff like that. So they get a pretty penny on all that stuff too, I would imagine. So they have him in that Disneyland ride. So I am curious that I hope that, because Feige's gonna. Here's the final for sure nail in the coffin. We got a press tour coming up. We always got a press tour with these Marvel things. And Feige, the same way that Venom thing from 2017, when they asked him and he was like, oh no, she meant this. They're adjacent. Venom's not part of the MCU. That to me will be the telling sign if when he gets asked, if he doubles down, it's like, yeah, we're excited to be working together more. I like that you laugh at the thought of me saying that.
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah. Or if he does walk it back, I'll be interested in his answer, because if he's like, yeah, that's what I would hope. If they say that, that still makes it sound like, okay, they're talking money-wise. Because, like, remember, after the divorce, you got a press release from every, deadline variety. Like, here's the new deal. Here's how they go, blah, blah, blah. I'd find it very odd if it's just like, oh, yeah, we just worked out. Like, nothing. We don't even know the deal. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So that's why there's still part of me, like, is this negotiation? But I think they do want it to happen. I think also, too, last time that pull part made them both look bad for like different reasons. It was just especially because I would have been fine if they looked bad and stayed broken up, but the fact that they broke up for like a month and then got back together, it's like, couldn't you guys just fucking sat down for a little bit and just figured it out? But they were both playing each other in the press, right? Of like the whole, woe is me, like, oh, I'd love to make more Spider-Man, but Sony won't let me. And Sony's like, oh, we'd love to make more, but Marvel wants too much money. So it's like, oh, like, I think they both hopefully know, let's not do that again, even if they separate.
Yeah, I feel like a big part of why this is so weird is that it felt like from like out of the blue that this was just happening. I feel like majority of people's vibes were they were just separating naturally, like they had the divorce as you were mentioning, but then okay, let's bang out these films and then we'll just go our own separate ways. And I really thought that's the way we were going, and then Amy Pascal just says otherwise. And I hope this is leading to like some grand plan that they've been in the works, like behind the scenes, and like hasn't really been talked about in public. Not just like, there's a lot of hype on this movie. The pre-ticket sales are gonna be crazy. Let's just do some more movies. And I don't want it to be just tacked on and just like thrown in there just because it can work. I want it to actually be solid going forward, and I'm basically just hoping that they have a plan moving forward that's pretty set, like already, before we even are thinking about these movies coming out.
Fanboy says, as far as having enough Spider-Man in the MCU, has the MCU ever really forgotten about their heroes, though? Could they just ignore the fact that Spider-Man disappears? If it's a story reason, yeah. If it would have been pitched at some reason for the end of No Way Home, he has to close a portal to save New York, but in order to do that, he gets booted the Sony universe. They wouldn't forget about him. He just went away. It's like Tony. They didn't forget about him. He just died. So it'd be the same thing as like if you make a story reason. I don't think he could just be swinging around New York and they never be like, oh, I wonder what happened to Spider-Man. Oh, I don't know, and they just move forward. Yeah, that would be lame writing. I think there'd be a reason, and it's going to be interesting because I have a topic like later on to cover the Sony Spider-Man and stuff, and I just hope that, I guess, again, it is going to be a massive movie, so maybe this is why we're not making certain decisions, but I just hope that there's maybe more, like when we talk about predictions of like, like if there is like we want Willem Dafoe in the MCU too, and he's going to be a Norman Osborn that leads the Dark Avengers or stuff like that, like if it's more than just Spider-Man, and people might be like, it's Venom and Morbius. No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, I mean some of the good stuff, because like I've always said, like, I'm down for a recast, but Willem Dafoe in the MCU, that's a moneymaker right there. Like he could, I don't think he could be the next like Thanos, but he could easily be an Avengers villain if you make him like a Dark Avengers type of Norman Osborn, like running for office. Like Willem Dafoe has that star power and just like that gravitas to care. He could easily be an Avengers movie villain, like beyond question he would steal that. So that's why I'd like, and we talked about this like a long time ago. I don't know if you remember when they announced that Olivia Wilde Spider-Woman movie, and Olivia Wilde had that quote where she's like, "Oh, I couldn't say anything because Kevin would shoot me." And it's like, why would he shoot you? He has nothing to do with this movie, right? So that's why I wonder though, if there is, like you said, maybe there is, like, they're gonna do this film, they're gonna do his appearance, and then after they're gonna go, and here's everything else we're doing with Spider-Man and Marvel and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. Because I was gonna say, like, it doesn't. I was gonna say, like, oh, I'm not fine with Morbius and Venom. All I hope is that if Holland goes to Morbius and Venom, that he just goes over there and he doesn't come to, like, they don't come to us. He goes to them, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine if Tom Holland has to go on the sword and be like, okay, I'll go over there, play with Venom and Morbius, but they won't come to us. We don't know, because technically, seemingly like the end credit from Venom seems like he is in the MCU currently right now. So I'm hoping that just means Holland goes back there. But now that we have this, I want to talk about this subject. How do you think now it's official that we are going to deal with the Morbius Venom type of, like, do you think Venom versus Spider-Man, let's just say that movie's that, right? They're taking the BVS route. They're going to do Spider-Man versus Venom. Do you think that is a MCU set in universe movie, or do you think that is a Sony movie with Tom Holland Spider-Man in it?
It's a great question, Travis. I wish I had knowledge of what happens at the end of No Way Home to give you a solid answer.
Well, that's the fun thing, you know?
It would be so much easier to have it in the Sony-Verse, because there's just so many factors that you don't have to really worry about, because I feel like there's so many just relevant characters around in the MCU at all different times. Sony, not so much. You know, we have Morbius coming out. He still doesn't even feel like he's like a thing yet, just because I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that movie, but nonetheless, but also, I feel like you could also write it to have it in like the Tom Holland world. And the reason why I say that is because so much of the Tom Holland Spider-Mans has been just like like away from like where you would think like the rest of the Avengers might be. I don't know if that makes any sense. Just like away from other MCU characters. I feel like that's where that setting of that movie would be. And it'd be so much easier to do in the Sony-Verse because you just don't have those characters, right? But I feel like that's also asked me where Tom Holland's going to be at the end of this movie. Like, does he get slipped into some other multiverse or something along those lines? Because if that is the case, you could put him in the Sony-Verse, and he is a part of the MCU. He's just in a different multiverse, kind of like what the What If show is like. Like, you know, like you could call it non-canon, but it's also just like another universe in the multiverse. So
Everything's canon now.
Anything's canon.
2002 Spider-Man's canon.
Yeah, exactly. I guess Star Wars can't be though, right? Because it's they made that fiction.
They better fix that. Same with the DC stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So here's my pitch, and I actually just thought about it right now, and I don't think it's original. I guarantee other people have. So one day we're on comic versions. We're gonna do Secret Wars, right? So what if the next time, because we've said like when is Spider-Man? We talked about some predictions, like when is Holland Spider-Man going to be in the next MCU movie? Like maybe Multiverse of Madness, but if not that. It's like clearly they said, okay, a next big crossover. As of right now on the board, we don't have any crossovers, right? We don't have an Avengers. We don't have this or that. So it's like, it might feel a little while. What if Tom Holland, he gets sucked up? Now, I guess we'll talk about the other characters in a second, but he gets sucked up in the Venomverse, right? And they do their Spider-Man versus Venom movie, everything like that. And you use him coming back to MCU as like a big hero moment of like they might even show it in the previews, but a big shock, like, oh man, the same way, you know, Han Solo saves the day in Force Awakens, like Spider-Man pops out of nowhere with a portal or something like that. Now in Secret Wars, that whole story is, you know, they're on different planets and that's how he gets a symbiote. What if as a tribute to that, because of his meeting with Venom, he has the symbiote, and the next time we see him in the crossover, he has that on him. So like a tribute to Secret Wars. That's what I'm pitching right now, that he spends some time in the Sony universe and it's all about getting back to because I feel like it's kind of cheap. Like, I don't know though, because I was gonna say I feel like it's cheesy if like all his characters like, oh, everyone comes with him, Aunt May, Ned, Tomei, but then you have Morbius where fucking Vulture's in that movie, right? So you
Yeah.
could argue that for some reason it's like how everyone in Spider-Man's life was snapped, so no one aged. You could argue that, oh, everybody from Spider-Man's universe. I guess you could say like everyone that you're close to, but it's like he's not close to Vulture. So I don't know. Does that just give us more evidence that Venom now is he had his origin over there? Michelle Williams is gone, and Venom and more. Oh, I don't know because it's so confusing, man. Because then you have Morbius in that trailer. Clearly, Morbius and Vulture know each other because he's like, "What's up, Doc?" He's like, "Michael Morbius." So it's like it's just like a head scratcher, and hopefully this movie clears it up. But what do you feel about that? That maybe he spends a couple years in the Sony universe, and then when that crossover happens, he comes back, and it's a big deal because you have like Venom and Spider-Man. They will do that movie, and I can fully admit it, that's money. That's Prince money. You know, Venom's making money on his own. So you imagine adding Spider-Man in there after this movie too. Fuck. So like,
Jeez.
that's my pitch of they tribute Secret Wars that he gets that symbiote from Venom, and then boom, he's in Secret Wars.
Yeah, I feel like if you go that route, you could allow to or like some picking and choosing for like Spider-Man characters, just like put them in the MCU because you could just write along the lines of them just breaking the multi-dimensional realm, or and that's how we get this Spider-Man villain that might have been showing up in Morbius or something along those lines. It's kind of funny just like thinking of that because like, oh, why isn't this character in the MCU? Oh, he just didn't make it. He just didn't go through that one portal that these other Spider-Man characters went through. But I like that more than just like opening the floodgates to the Sony-Verse and the MCU because there's too many wild factors in the Sony-Verse. I mean, I already have the Eternals to stress and worry about being introduced in the MCU. Maybe they can get sent to the Sony-Verse.
That'd be great. Hey, we'll trade you Spider-Man for Eternals. And Sony's like, all right. It's like, I don't know. So, Fan Clay says, I think the new trilogy is in the Sony-Verse, but will still work with Marvel Studios to keep the quality of Holland's aesthetic. So like, I just don't see... I don't know if I see that because it's funny. We talked about Venom, like what would Venom and Feige, like what would Feige do with Venom if he had him in his hands? I guess like that's just a pure monetization game, but like, so they make Venom, right? It's produced by Marvel Studios, but if it's just in the Sony-Verse, they just make money off it. It's not like progressing their like future, universe or anything like that. And at the same point, sure, you could argue of like, hey, well, the other Sony movies, they could be separate, but like still, Spider-Man, like Homecoming had Iron Man and it had some stuff in there. Spider-Man 2 had Skrulls in it and it had Nick Fury, and even an end credits set up this. If Daredevil is in this movie, that's setting up some MCU stuff. I just don't know if they would make a movie that's purely, hey, we're just producing it for Sony, unless they get a bigger cut of money. I just don't think that they would, hey, we're going to help you with your Venom movies just for our 15%, because it's not really helping their universe. But maybe the trade-off, though, is what we talked about, that maybe he goes over there and they get a Miles Morales, or they get a Willem Dafoe, or Spider-Woman. So I could see that, but at the same point, like, whatever people want to say, and I still really like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, that is the house Kevin Feige built. Sure, Sony produced those movies, but everyone that loves Tom Holland and these movies, and the reason this movie, in my opinion, is getting these heights is because Kevin Feige and team. Amazing Spider-Man, look at where they were. Lowest grossing Spider-Man movie all time. To me, it's the worst one. They were down the dumps. They still got Venom. Sure, they got the money, but let's be honest here. Look at the quality of those films. For me, at least, like, I don't like. And this is what I say. Not that you can't like Venom, but I just you look at Venom versus the Spider-Man ones. I feel like those are even more of a crowd pleaser, right? So I just find that it'd be tough for me to believe that they're just going to produce it's like Spider-Man movies. And even then, she said it won't be the last MCU Spider-Man movie. So that's why I feel like, again, it's gonna whenever it happens, it's gonna happen somehow in the MCU.
Man, what I wouldn't do to be a fly on the wall in these negotiation rooms, like just because what you're saying, like maybe Sony would get certain characters that Marvel has or something like this, just to have a negotiation that way. Like, I'm curious what's on and off the table in these negotiations on what they can do. Like, it's the possibilities are endless, and it's. I think I'm still just baffled to the fact that these conversations are happening and actually like progressing in a way that they've already made a comment that there's going to be 3 additional movies after these ones.
Trilogy.
It's mind blowing, and it's gonna be good content to talk about. So I'm excited for it, one way
Oh,
or the
yeah.
other. I don't know. I still feel like it's kind of a cloud of spookiness.
Yeah,
Just like this Sony cloud going over my MCU. Like don't rain on it. Come on, be careful now.
It's just inviting that friend of the party that you don't know can trust around your parents' furniture. Like
A wild card. Yeah, exactly.
They might fuck it all up. But I was gonna ask you because less than a week ago we did our predictions. Does this seemingly potential deal or maybe done deal, does that hurt or lessen some of your odds as far as some of these villains surviving and maybe continuing forward? Because like we talked about Defoe in the MCU, I feel like it really helps him out. Like, do you think now that there's some that you go, okay, now that if I had this knowledge to go into predictions, I may have said a higher percentage on this guy or that girl or something like that.
No, for sure. Yeah, I just knowing that there's like this isn't the end of the line. Just knowing that, I think it does get me really excited going forward. And also just characters that were done so poorly, in my opinion, in like Spider-Man: Homecoming. Whether we got Shocker, Scorpion, like technically they're still out there, right?
Yeah.
Or like in jail. I think there's some possibility to just lift those characters and actually give them some good stuff, not just being some goon number one. I feel like Shocker got like messed up, but we could get a new Shocker. We could write that guy out. But
Maybe we got a new Shocker in Homecoming. We got 2 Shockers, remember? He was like, "You're the Shocker now," and he gave it to the other guy. Yeah, yeah, remember?
I wrote that out of my mind. Gosh,
They should do that as a running joke. Every Shocker he gets replaced by a new one. Like, you're the Shocker now.
You're
you
the
know?
Shocker now. Yeah.
Well, that's funny you bring that up because I have a question that I want to ask you after this next ad break. And we're back. So let's set aside the Sony stuff and the whole, what are we going to do with the continuity and everything like that. I just want to get to the nitty gritty of, okay, let's try and be a little excited because we got, obviously we got Spider-Man, Sony stuff that me and Kirklin are a little like iffy about. And I'm excited. We'll have to ask Kirk or Taylor on news because we didn't get his Venom review. I know you got a little, was he positive or negative?
It was like
on
a
it? Tell
teaser
me.
trailer. He was pretty positive on it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So the thing that gets exciting though is, okay, whatever, we're not going to try and go in the square, circle peg in a square hole. Like, how could this fit? What could we do continuity wise? Sony-Verse, Spider-Verse, Jared Leto, none of that. I just want to get into like, okay, we got a Spider-Man trilogy potentially coming. Again, who knows if it's MCU, Sony producing, what the deal is. What do you want to see, and like, who are some characters you would like to see in this? Because we had a news topic we were going to talk about last week, which I got to you on brand. But like, any villains that like, who are you waiting for? Because now, and again, I said let's not talk about the Sony-Verse stuff, but it's hard not to. But like before, it was like, okay, we're in the MCU. It's like, oh, we still got to do Doc Ock. We still got to do Green Goblin. Like, there's all these villains we haven't done yet. But now you have these, variants coming in. But at the same time, you could easily, what we talk about in the predictions, okay, that's Willem Dafoe. He goes back. Now we're going to meet the MCU Goblin or Tom Holland's Goblin, right? So do you think for a Spider-Man 4, you could be like, oh, I know Norman Osborn. He's a bad guy, and this is because of this. Or do you think they would go the route of, here's a new villain, like even like you're talking about, yeah, Scorpion was in number 1, but he was just Matt Gargan. He didn't become Scorpion. So where do you think you would go as far as 4? I mean, talk about 4 and 5, but just with villains, like, who do you want to see?
I would love to get back to just like these classic neighborhood type villains. Whether we're going more like organized crime route. I mean, we already have some theories where we think Kingpin. Jeez, I can't say his name. Kingpin. There you go. Like where he would show up. Like I'm thinking someone like Tombstone, like just like another goon type character. Shocker's a great one, but I think I need some cool down time from him. But the big one I think is honestly Scorpion. I want to see like how we got the Vulture suit in Homecoming. I want to see like a great Scorpion suit like that. Just with some cool new tech, and we got JJ.
Yes.
We got JJ in there, so right there that'd be a good tie. And again, it would be a more grounded like villain as opposed to where we are right now going into No Way Home, where like all these villains are coming from different dimensions. Villains a Spider-Man has fought before. We're supposedly getting more Spider-Men. If we're going into it, it's just one Spider-Man. I don't know. I want to go back to just the neighborhood Spider-Man type villains. So,
can you go back though? That's the thing. Like after this movie,
Yeah,
can you go back
I
to
think
like how
so.
it was Vulture and the prom and everything, and he's taking him out? Like, can you do that after you have? I don't think this is a world-ending thing, but this is like a multiverse thing. Can you do that? And man, S. Bubs reminds me of fucking Aaron Taylor Johnson's
Yeah,
Craven as the villain. You know, like, and we'll get to that. But like, can you? You think you can go back?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think especially if the villain has a lot of ties to like a certain character, I think it would be a more instead of like a world-ending threat. It's just I don't even know the best way to describe it, but it's just like a more gosh,
Personal.
yeah,
It's hard
yeah,
to say personal
exactly.
because he's gonna be
Character
dealing
type
with.
villain where it
It's
like
hard.
hits hard.
Yeah, it's hard because like this one I think will be personal with the other Spider-Man, but Justin Zwimmer says a good Rhino would be cool to see. We got a cool Rhino. Amazing Spider-Man 2, Justin. He was right there.
I saw
But,
that for the first time less than a week ago. God
yeah,
damn.
I think you and me are similar as far as like, and Taylor likes it too, but I think like obviously how we feel about Eternals and then versus how we feel about Hawkeye, I feel like you and me do prefer, or at least kind of are a bit more not open, but it's just like like when we just did Hawkeye and comic versions. That is the stuff I really do prefer. Now I'm always good for a good world ender because Endgame I think is one like when it's done well, it's like Return of the King. It's like when you got an epic battle movie done well, it's fantastic. When it's like to me Eternals where it's done again, it's like okay, we didn't really need this. So what I would like my personal thing, I think with Scorpion, you're right. Like that's what I pitched after Far From Home because I thought for sure they introduced Jonah. They already introduced Scorpion. If people don't know, so one the origin is like he pays to have Scorpion like in the suit to take down Spider-Man. Jonah realizes, oh, this was a mistake. We shouldn't really do this. But then Scorpion, of course, does not feel that route. My only always hang out with Scorpion is like I don't think the actor's big enough because they cast that guy beforehand, right? And that's where I feel like you'd need like a team up. And I guess for me, it's just like a logical step is the Sinister Six. Now, again, we're kind of getting that here, so it's tough. I would love, again, I don't even know if they do this because, like, the stuff you're talking about, I want to see the Kingpin, the Tombstone, stuff like that. I would absolutely love if they did like a mini, like, Avengers movie and a Spider-Man movie, but it's him with the New York heroes. Like, get him, get Daredevil, get Kate, get Echo, who's going to be
Hell
coming
yes.
up, get Moon Knight. Like, that's what I would love. And who's like another movie New Yorker, you know, like I guess Strange is there, but like I want like another. I'm trying to think. Cap's gone. Oh, fuck it, you could throw in Sam. You could throw in Bucky. You know, like it's someone like that. Like I would love them to deal with the Tombstones. That's where I think you could get a Rhino because the problem is I don't think Rhino or Scorpion can be a main villain on their own. I think they got to be a part of like an ensemble, and that's where Sinister Six. But I feel like if you do this movie when it's 5 villains all teaming up, and then the next movie is just Peter versus villains teaming up, I feel like you'd lose that steam right away, you know?
Absolutely, and I think that's why the villain would have to be a really personable villain that like throws off the hero on a more I don't know whether it emotional or psychological level as opposed to just like someone that can literally just destroy the world or something like that. Someone that I really want to see going forward, I'm curious where they would place it though. Is like the introduction of the Black Cat character. I think that would be so much fun. But like Tom Holland Spider-Man, I don't think he's ready for that yet. You know, he's got like his first relationship with Zendaya, MJ.
You'd be like
and
Jim in American Pie.
yeah, that's what I mean though. Like if I don't know, there's some story element that. Of course, my mind is just polluted with Spider-Man 3 Bully Maguire when he gets all edgy and going after Gwen Stacy there. But like, just something that puts some I don't know, like something in between him and MJ. I think like a spicy young Black Cat might, or I guess she's not young, she's older than Peter, but just
depends.
I think that would be a fun
Sometimes they're
dynamic.
the same age, you know.
Yeah, and I think it would just be so fun to have a character like that interacting with Tom Holland Spider-Man because he's already portrays such like a super awkward like Peter at times. It'd be so fun to have Black Cat just like just be herself with him. Like there's so much gold there, but it would have to be written in such a clever way to not do it poorly. And how would that end? Like, is that his new love interest? Are we just forgetting about MJ? Is MJ actually dying like she looks to be in that trailer? You know?
Well, I'm happy you brought up Black Cat because I want to talk about love interests because there's always two that comes to mind now that we got MJ. Is where's Black Cat? Where's Felicia Hardy? But same thing, like, is a Gwen Stacy possible in this universe? I've always thought no, and my hope is that if there is really 3 movies and they are planning these out, I wouldn't mind if you have MJ and him break up at some point and he does dabble around and stuff like that and have different love interests. I'm fine if they do the okay, it's gonna be him and MJ forever. I'm like you. What they've laid down with MJ's like Zendaya's MJ so far, I do not see them doing breakup stuff and getting back together. I feel like it's going to be like they're together for the entire trilogy. I really
Yeah.
feel like that. But you know what could be fun is Spider-Man and MJ get married in the comics. We could actually do that on screen. So I am fine if we do that. It's just that I would be more inclined if he gets sucked up and thrown into another universe. I'd be inclined to say that's where we could see a Black Cat. That's where we could see maybe Gwen Stacy. But I just don't know if I see these in these movies. And maybe Gwen Stacy, if you look at something like the Ultimate Comics, they had like a little bit of flirtation, but him and Gwen were more just friends than anything, you know? So they could do that. They could have Gwen play off with another character, which this is where I want to ask you too, because again, this all depends. And I can't wait for our conversations after No Way Home. This to me very much depends on the Osborns, because so last week we were going to do the BS rumor meter, right? And there's this website, Giant Freaking Robot. They reported that Spider-Man 4 is already planning to have Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. And the BS rumor meter, I say like, okay, what the percentage of this do you think is actually real? Because sometimes their guesses are just actually completely right, and it's so funny. What do you think in this trilogy? What percentage would you give seeing a Gwen Stacy?
So yeah, the trilogy going forward after this.
Yeah, 4 to 6.
I want to say it's likely, but I'm also so hesitant because of what we were just laying out with the relationship that he has with MJ. I feel like they're just so like endgame, like
Yeah.
they're just gonna be together forever. But like you also laid out, Gwen doesn't always have to be a love interest for this character. Like she could just be someone cool to hang out with or something like that. Just a friend, not a new coworker or whatever you want to call it.
So what's your percentage? I want a number.
Oh gosh, I can't go Switzerland on this.
You could take the 50. He says 50 for everyone I ask him.
I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go like 40. Yeah, less than 50.
I'm kind of with you. My pitch is, I think maybe I said this in predictions, but either way, I'll say it again, that I think it's more likely. I think in this trilogy, we could get another Spider-Verse movie. I think once this happens, they'll do it, and I think they'll do 4 or 5, and then they'll realize 6, like, let's do a big, or maybe, oh, actually, you know what? Here's my pitch. I think they might do 4, and then 5 might be another Spider-Verse movie, and 6 might be, like, the final Tom Holland, like, goodbye, and I think they want that to be a solo movie. I just think after they do a Spider-Verse, they're not going to be able to resist themselves, you know, because even technically, you could make Venom the Spider-Verse movie. Like, imagine Tobey Maguire having to act with Tom Hardy, like, they could do that. There's tons of fun pairings still on the table. I think it's more likely we see a Ghost Spider or Spider-Gwen interact with Tom Holland than a Gwen Stacy. And why I'm saying that is because if you look at her origin, her and Peter were just friends and he died because he was Lizard, right? You could have some emotion there. I'm not saying it has to be Emma Stone. I think that's the way you play it, because you could introduce Gwen Stacy and she would not be maybe physically attracted to Peter Parker, right? But they could have a dynamic. And what I think you could do is just like in the comic books, how they got married and had kids, I think you could make Miles Gwen's main love interest. If we are going to get a Miles soon, just like how the movie is kind of doing that with Spider-Verse animated stuff.
Yeah.
They've done that in comic books. That was a very famous cover of them kissing. It was like, holy shit, like why are Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales kissing? Like Miles Morales in our world is like this little kid and Gwen Stacy's Peter Parker's dead ex-girlfriend, but it was from a different multiverse. So I think that's the route. So if you ask me just Gwen Stacy as Peter's love interest, I think I'm like a 30-25. You ask me like Spider-Gwen, I think I'm like a 50-55. Because I think, what do you do in a Spider-Verse, 2 movie in live action? You just go bigger. You get Tom Hardy, you get a new, and even then, fuck it, I'd love it if it was Emma Stone. That'd be great. Like that'd be so much fun. Like that, like I think that would be just as hype. Imagine a teaser trailer ending with all the Spider-Man and She Lands takes her mask off. People and Emma Stone's mask star would go ape shit. Like I think that has a really strong chance. So I'll address some of these people in the chat before we go to the next percentage I had for you. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna address the people in the chat.
Okay. The end credit scene, Let There Be Carnage, makes me think he's in No Way Home. Is he confirmed to be in it? If you're talking about Venom, they're not confirming. I think we've said this before, that he is a strong potential end credit thing. I think he's in the movie, but not like he's not coming out of the portal like, hey, I'm here to fight Peter Parker,
With his tater tots with him.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think Peter goes to the photographer route if we're looking for it into adulthood and career, or go straight into business route like Parker Industries? Kirklin, I'll let you take this one.
I would say Parker Industries more route. I think the photographer route, it's like such like a high school internship type career and
Yeah.
like first job out of school. I think he's inherited quite a lot of dough from Mr. Stark that like he doesn't really need to take photos of Spider-Man. I for me it's hard to see him going that route. I'd say that's pretty low percentage chance, and I don't know, he's just so intertwined with like these big names, whether it was Stark, I guess Pepper's now like running Stark Industries. He knows her. He's also friends with Doctor Strange. Like I think he's so far from just Peter Parker taking photos at the Daily Bugle. So
Well, and even where Jonah is right now, I don't look at him as like someone like I know Jonah's always that one where Peter takes pictures of Spider-Man and Jonah spins it, right? But he's so like don't take offense, like he's like a sarcastic play on like a right winger, right? Where it's like he's so over the top and he's like an Alex Jones type of character. I don't see our Tom Holland interacting with that per se. I could change my mind after we see Jonah in this movie. We'll have to see what route he gets. But in my mind, like Jonah will be more that, be more villainous, which it's fine. Just as long as JK is there, it's going to be great. So I don't see the photographer thing. I see the Parker Industries. And I know some people don't like that, but I'm fine with it being a little bit different. He's already dabbled in that. He was making like electronic suits. And to me, then you just that's when you bring in Miles and he can be the more, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man where Peter
Yeah.
Parker is like the Avengers Spider-Man,
he's taking down the line of shockers.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole line of them all. As Bob said, he'd 50% for the next movie, but 75% for the next trilogy if that's for Gwen Stacy. That's pretty high right there.
That
He
is
hasn't
pretty
really
high.
taken photos in the movie so far, but I don't really feel like they'll go that route, Parker Industries route either. I think they will just because like his what Kirklin was talking about, his history with Tony. I think kind of sets it up, and like maybe there was a grant left for him or blah blah blah. And even then, like just the way he was creating his own suit and Far From Home, it's like okay, he could be like a techie guy.
Yeah.
I just don't see either. So, but we'll find out. I guess we didn't even address this. I think we're pretty much in agreement that this trilogy would kind of be like the college years, right?
Yeah. No, and we get some hot Felicia Hardy action.
So here's what I want to ask you, because this was what I was going to ask next week. What percentage do we see a Harry Osborn in this? Because right now we got Ned, who's his best friend, but there is because Osborns are always, even without
They're
No
around
Way
somewhere.
Home,
They're around somewhere.
and they're always like a cloud where you're always wondering. Because to me, they're just so they're so conjoined to Spider-Man. It's just
Yeah.
kind of the same way I would I'd wonder where Alfred and Jim Gordon are for Batman, because it's just like they're intertwined, like best friend. To me, Green Goblin is
That's-
his greatest villain.
That's the Hobgoblin like origin story. Peter goes off to college, finds a new best friend, Harry Osborn, and then Ned gets super jealous, starts crafting some pumpkin bombs in his.
I had a Ned question, so I'll ask you that after this. Yeah.
But no, like the Harry stuff, I agree with you. I think it's so tied to Spider-Man, and it would be really fun, like to have him pop up in college. It would make it easy of an introduction, because it's like, well, where's Harry been? He's basically Peter's best friend in the comics, but like we haven't seen him in Tom Holland's version, so I think it would fit just him being in that college setting. And then I don't know, do we get a different Norman Osborn if we have Defoe somewhere else in the multiverse?
Oh well, Penn Badgley, like I said, that's what's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
happen,
that's
you know.
right.
That's my pick is Penn Badgley all the way. I put that on Twitter. Some people liked it, so I was like, you know what, I'm not alone. I would like it if they played it off as Osborn's the douchey rich kid, and they eventually find some common ground. I want a Harry Potter Draco Malfoy dynamic between Harry and Tom. Or Harry and Peter. I really would want that, because I think right away you'd assume, oh, Harry's gonna be in there. They're gonna be best buds. But if it's like right away, and there's another person that you could set up like a Gwen Stacy dating as a Harry Osborn, right? Or to me,
Yeah,
what you should
that'd
do
be
is
fun.
like if him and MJ ever break up, MJ dates like the douchey Harry, and then
God, I just think of that fucking James
do it.
Franco.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't want that. We need a redo. But that's where you could have Tom with a Gwen Stacy or something like that. Or even then people have joked, but like the Liz from the first Spider-Man, like she just got dumped and she's just gone. Like you could bring her back. There's options there. So I think Harry is around now. Family says Osborn as the new college best friend would be interesting, which would mean Nen has to be Hobgoblin No Way Home, right? So I had a new working theory, because you're talking about Kirklin, you set me up for this perfectly, because you're like, I feel like the next villain has to be someone like personal, right? What gets more personal than if they... I don't think he is Hobgoblin in this, but what if somehow this movie leads to him becoming Hobgoblin or a setup for it? again, I really don't want it. I don't think this actor sets up for it, and I don't think that dynamic's there like the Raimi trilogy where it set it up. But if you're talking about a personal villain and stakes, that would cover everything you said. What you're saying, what they should go back to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm still in your camp of it's hard for me to see the actor portraying that role very well. No shots to the actor. I can't really see it. Yeah. That one got me pretty good.
Liz will return
That's
as
pretty
Junior
personal.
Hobgoblin. Fuck, I would trust her more than the guy that plays Ned. And there's no offense to the guy in Ned. He does this role well, but like if they're say, hey, you got the two options, like, yeah, fuck, make her Hobgoblin. Let's do it. You know, and you know what?
Her and Vulture come in. It's like a dynamic duo.
Flying together, you know. Hey, fuck, I'd be so down for a female goblin. You know, let's do it up. That'd be different. You know.
I think that was something that was really, really fun in Multiverse.
Yes.
Or Spider-Verse. Yeah. Was what getting the female Doc Ock. Like it was such a fun dynamic, and you get a different side of the character that's still being true to what the character of Doc Ock is. Yeah, let's do that. I feel like that'd be pretty bold and exciting if they did that live action, because that would that'd be a major swap. They haven't done that, I don't think, in anything other than I guess like female Loki. But then again, that's a character from the
Taskmaster.
comics, so yeah, Taskmaster. That's right.
Technically Ghost from Ant-Man too, but nothing like, to me, like even I guess Hobgoblin, but I mean like they haven't done one of those big ones. I'm still waiting for someone, and hey, maybe I'll do it one day. I'm still waiting for someone to throw down the big cock and make Joker a female. Like I'm waiting for them to do that, and I want to see all the guys get mad and everything, but like that, like I'm waiting for one of those big villains to be like, yeah, this is the female version of it, because it's like
I think
I
it'll
don't know.
happen. It'll
Let's have
happen in
some
our
fun.
lifetime.
Oh, I'm gonna make it happen. So
Yeah.
I have another pitch for another villain, because S Bubs was talking about it in the chat, and we're gonna talk about that after this next ad break. So we are back. So another thing Kirklin talked about, well, it's the same thing, but actually, I didn't get your percentage. What was your percentage on Harry being in the next trilogy?
Oh, like 90%.
Whoa!
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
in
Spider-Man
that
4.
camp. In Spider-Man 4?
Yeah.
60. I think
60?
it would be early. I think it would be early, honestly. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty much with you. I know I would,
Yeah.
but like I think if this Sony relationship's going to happen, it's just something that you could start introducing some of these fun characters. But yeah, S Bubs introduced, you're talking about personal stakes and whatnot. What if he has to deal with a villain who's someone else's uncle, of someone he trusts? Because do you think we'll get Prowler next trilogy, or do we see Aaron Davis again in the next movie? So to me, we'll see what happens. It was a long time ago. I get why they cast Donald Glover, because it was like, oh, you know, everyone wanted him to be Spider-Man. It never happened. This was a nice tribute. But I still, and people wanted to be Miles, stuff like that. I still don't think that was by accident that they cast Donald Glover as Aaron Davis, who would become the Prowler. I think that, and they set up he's a criminal, and maybe it's smaller crime, but we don't know what's happened since Endgame, stuff like that. Maybe after Endgame, he was down on hard times and he really became a criminal. I think that is another personal story. Now, the Prowler, people might be like, oh, that's not too big. But I think if you're using that movie to set up Miles Morales, plus, actually, that's where I think like you could use the Prowler, Rhino, Scorpion. That's a movie where you could use a bunch of smaller guys. And I think
Absolutely.
that would be great as far as like you have the dynamic of, because you know what's going to happen is hopefully in No Way Home, they start introducing Tom Holland's Uncle Ben, and we get a failure with that. So then you get the opposite side of he meets Miles, Spider-Bite, whatever it may be, and you have his uncle, who is the opposite of Uncle Ben, where it's like he can't look up to him. He's a criminal, so he needs to be there. I think, especially me and Taylor talked about this a few weeks ago on a newscast, as far as there's lots of Miles rumors going around right now. It's like I would expect any morning for us to wake up for Miles Morales to be casted, and they're making a movie of it, whether it's in the MCU or Sony. Just he's becoming such a big character. So I
Yeah.
think Prowler and Bad Guy Friends, or Prowler and Fisk, stuff like that, to me is a movie of introducing Miles now to me is big enough where I think the villains could be lower tier. It's almost like Vulture, right? Like it's different because you got Michael Keaton, right? But Vulture, not a huge villain. He is one of the classic ones, but he's not one of those, the Venoms, the Doc Ocks, the Green Goblins. But you had Michael Keaton play him, and then you also had Iron Man in the movie, right? So I think you could have Prowler and some lesser villains if you had Miles Morales, and probably another MCU character too.
You're getting me excited over here. Just
Yeah.
the possibilities
Let's
that are
go.
flooding into my mind, because I think now let's get crazy here. So let's say Kingpin, you know, is around in the MCU.
3 more weeks.
Whatever this weird verse that we're in, talking about these next trilogy movies. You know, it's a Marvel product, so I'm just going to assume Snell
Have you
still
seen
wants
my
Lil
fan
Miles as
cast?
Miles. No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
buy that
want.
actually. That would fit.
You need to, before you continue your rant, have you seen the Maury episode he did?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's only 20 minutes. It's on YouTube for free. Watch it,
Okay.
and right away I'm like, "Fuck, this guy can act. He could be great." I think he's actually a bit too. Well, actually, I don't know how old he is. I'll look. But anyway, so you were continuing there. But I just had to shut that because yes, Lil Nas should be Miles.
He's got the look.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like he's really tall, isn't he? Like real.
There's a photo of him with Andrew and Tom just last
Yeah,
week, and
I
he
saw
like
that.
behemoths them. So that's why I was like, yeah,
that's our little Miles.
yeah, fuck. Miles. Oh, fuck. Yeah, he's only 22 years old, but he's a tall guy. He's
Jeez.
I'll
He's
try
only
and find out.
22.
Yeah,
My
he's only
gosh.
22, but that's a man right there.
Youngin.
But yeah, I just watched the Maury thing. The other thing I want him in is like a Judd Apatow movie. Like he just had that comedic timing where it's like, fuck, this guy's. I think he's too fucking tall compared to Holland. Yeah, maybe we are getting to that, or maybe he couldn't. But like, maybe they got to put Tom Holland on like a box or something. But like I said, if you don't even like his music, watch. I'm like, this guy's a star, and he's already gonna be in Proud Family coming up doing voices. So I'm telling you, in
There
a
you
few
go.
years, he's gonna be like Gaga. He's gonna be all over the place.
He's gonna be all over the place. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, I was getting excited with the whole Kingpin aspect, and
Mhm.
you know, we're pitching this Spider-Man villain with some less. I hate to say the word lesser villains, just more grounded villains. Maybe like we have the Prowler in there.
Yeah.
Let's throw in, I don't know, Kingpin is the crime lord. That's just. I hope Kingpin gets added in Hawkeye, and I hope that he doesn't just get like taken out in that series. I hope he becomes a
No.
villain that just like transcends like all
Yeah.
these shows, and he's such like an obstacle that all the heroes have to deal with. I think that would be so fun moving forward. I want him to stick around so much that like he's in prison in one movie, he gets out of prison in another movie. Like he's just around and such a presence.
Even if it's just
and
for the
I-
street level characters, you know?
no,
that'd be
exactly, and like it would be such an easy dynamic to have him interacting with, let's say, someone like the Prowler. Like Prowler's trying to get his hands on, as Bub shouted out, like the anti-grav climbers. Like maybe it was like just Kingpin's like just crime, organized crime that's like selling and dealing with these low-level criminals. We
Yeah.
have, I don't know, you could insert a couple other ones. You mentioned Rhino there. Again, that could fit because you can't have them as the main villain, but if you have a bunch of like moving pieces in the movie that are these different villains, and then man, that's where you get your neutral character of Felicia Hardy. That's just like another person
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is maybe playing the Catwoman route where she's like trying to rob Kingpin or something like that, and then that's just like a neutral factor that our hero has to deal with, and then that's where you get those great one-on-one scenes with Tom Holland and whoever they cast as Felicia Hardy. Who's your fan cast? Is it Samara Weaving?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Like you know, her dad was in the MCU. It didn't go too well for him, but yeah, that is. You look at that, but like, it's kind of a double. But like, so here's my pitch is: you get Thompson McKenzie as Gwen Stacy, and then you get Anna Taylor-Joy as Felicia Hardy.
I was gonna say that one as well. That's a great casting. I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking the Thomason McKenzie one, but Anya Taylor-Joy, she could be a great Felicia.
Because I think that Thompson
Felicia.
McKenzie is Gwen. Because like obviously I watched Last Night So again with Emily, fantastic movie, and like you see the blonde hair, you go, okay, she could pull it off. But I think because she could play the way Zendaya to me is just so over the top, and so talks about the dead bodies and is very like comedic. You could have Gwen being that more like subtle emotional character that's like very in touch with Peter's, you know, just his downside. Like if we're talking about that romantic stuff, I just think she could play against Zendaya's MJ very well, like a good contrast of like complete different personalities of like, oh, this is why he might fall for someone like that. And then Anna Taylor-Joy could just easily do Felicia Hardy. Like she's almost doing Felicia Hardy in Last Night in Soho sometimes, you know, like
Yeah.
she could pull it off. But yeah, Thompson McKenzie, just because I want her to be one of these, I think she would be a great, because to me Gwen is like, MJ has always been the louder, more excited, like, you know, she just becomes a fucking supermodel sometimes in the comic books. To me, Gwen was more of the girl next door. Like, they kind of take what in Raimi's Spider-Man, what MJ, like, kind of took that from Gwen and used it there, you know, and Emma Stone did that perfectly. So, Thompson McKenzie could pull that, and then you get the flashback, or you get the just them together again. What if, though, I was going to pitch, what if you take Black Cat's story, and if Tom is, I keep calling him Tom, but if Peter is with MJ and they're going that long run, what if you do that storyline with Miles? Because he's might be single, and you could kind of play it up. If you're like, hey, we want to get to the point where Tom and MJ are going to get married, I'm fine with that. Take Black Cat, put him with Miles, and you kind of get a similar dynamic and stuff like that. I think it'd be a little bit different, but if they're not going to do it Peter, why not do it with someone else, you know?
That'd be awesome. Are they gonna cast the Thomasin McKenzie's love interest in Soho as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Make
there
that
we
guy as
go.
Miles.
Yeah, we got it set. We're just taking everybody, and Terrence Stamp will be he'll be Chameleon.
Yeah. I'm down though. I like
yeah.
all this. I mean, I'm just thinking how jealous I am of Tom Holland possibly interacting with all these fine women.
Oh yeah, he's
We got
lucky guy.
Zendaya, you know, let's say we're getting Anya Taylor-Joy in there, Samara Weaving. Look at
By
this.
the
look at this
way,
roster.
Tom Holland's 5'8", and then Lil Nas is 6'1". So yeah, he's
Okay.
he's
Stark
got
contrast.
he's got some height on him there. So yeah, be a tall Miles, but he's still technically Lil Nas is younger than Tom Holland, so it's not wrong. But no,
He
I
was
think
just like treating him like the little kid too. He's just like looking up at him. Oh God, that'd be so funny.
no, I think they will go the Miss Marvel route when they get Miles. They'll get like a kid, you know, like someone
Yeah.
very very young, which is fine. But Lil Nas, he can do something else. So
He'll do like old Miles when they do that flash forward scene.
exactly, yeah. As Bob
He's
says,
jacked and
Shocker.
tall.
Yeah, exactly. You got big change. Shocker, Rhino, Scorpion, Prowler, Black Cat, aka the Spider-Man 4 universe.
Just get
Yeah,
that
that's what we're
cast in
pitching,
there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think though, when we're talking about this, unless they do what we're saying of like if one movie's a Miles movie, one movie's maybe a bigger villain, and then one movie's like another Spider-Verse movie, and then one movie's like the send-off. They might not have to have those big villains in there, but I do think if they want to have big villains again at some point, if those Sony guys go back to their universe, they are going to have to do an MCU doc or an MCU Goblin and whatnot. So it'll be interesting because we'll get our answers, right? If they all go
Yeah.
back, then we'll know, okay, they probably will. Because I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, would they feel if they want to do a Doc Ock in the MCU? Is this just too similar to what we just did? Do we not do that? Because they've always stayed away from that. Or maybe they just, like we all talked about, let's go for the live one. Like, let's gender swap. Let's change some stuff up. That's what I hope. But it's Ned becomes Doc Ock. Yeah, let's not get that route.
becomes
but-
everyone. He just
But how do
copies
you-
all the villains. Like,
Do you feel that if they do go back to the Sony universe, that they would still feel fine of using these characters again, but kind of their new variants, or would they worry, we just did that, let's not do another Doc Ock or Green Goblin?
Yeah, I think they would want to keep it fresh, like not just do a variant right away. I don't think that they wouldn't do it. I just think right off the bat, if you're coming off No Way Home and we just saw these characters, then it's like, oh, it's that character again, just swapped a little bit. I find that lazy, and I hope they don't go that route because there's so many villains that you can pull from. You know, we were talking about Aaron Taylor Johnson
Oh,
as
God,
Kraven.
yeah.
Like he's gonna make an appearance at some point, so might as well just get him in there. And yeah, so something else I was thinking about too is just thinking of going from No Way Home to this movie and how earlier we were talking, or this movie, the trilogy that will be coming out afterwards, we were talking about how hard it might be coming from a major threat that he'd be facing in No Way Home, and then how do you deal with that? Now, we talked about some pair-ups, like, I don't know, Felicia Hardy and Miles. What about some other, like, MCU or Marvel type team-ups that we haven't gotten to see? And right off the hop, I'm thinking Daredevil, because they have great pair-ups in the comics. I am still wanting that, and I'm seeing a lot of people still want that. I mean, there's so much, like, hope that he's in this movie, but I don't think we're going to see... Daredevil
formed
and Spider-Man like just taken down.
Yeah.
like you know that scene of people are assuming it's like two different Spider-Man or CGI'd out of like the Sandman and the Lizard. Like I don't think Daredevil's in there.
No.
But why can't we get that in a trilogy with Spider-Man? And he probably wouldn't appear in these Sony movies, but like just an appearance from Deadpool.
Charlie Cox is just like, oh, I'm coming back in the Daredevil, right? And Feige's like, oh yeah, for sure, we're really excited. Yeah. So what's next? Well, you're gonna be in No Way Home, and then you're gonna be in Venom 3, and okay, like that's strange,
And
but that's
you're gonna die to Morbius.
yeah. But then you're gonna come back as a vampire. Oh, great. You're gonna be in the Vulture movie in the Sony. Oh, okay. So when am I in the MCU? In about 15 years, when you come back in Marvel Zombies. Oh, okay. Thanks, Charlie. And he just gets shoved out. Like, no, it's funny. Did you mean to say Deadpool? Was that a Floridian
I did mean to say that just because I want to
Okay,
see those
yes.
two pair up, and if I don't want to say that they're they're just like in purgatory, which is the Sony-Verse. It's so funny. I was just
That's
seeing
where
this,
he
like,
finds Deadpool.
you don't want to go to that class. You want to be in the Marvel
Yeah.
class. You know. You don't
Oh,
wanna be
after
in
the
Sony.
Fox movies, they shipped me over here. I've been stuck here ever since.
Yeah, but like, if we're going down that route of them maybe going back and forth, and like I think it'll be something different than just this like portal that like takes you to the Marvel world or takes
Yeah.
you to the Sony world. I think it'll be something a little bit more palatable, and if they're able to bring characters in and out this hypothetical portal of the two verses, I would personally love to see that stuff. I know Spider-Man also has interacted so many times with like Johnny Storm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the Human Torch and just the other Fantastic Four members, like he has so many good interactions with other Marvel characters. That's why like I'm scared if he just goes the Sony route. But as we were speculating before, we don't know all the negotiations. Maybe there was some other characters that are like, okay, you can actually use these Marvel characters in your Sony movies or something like this. If we're going the symbiotic route, and I'm not like those type of ideas don't scare me really. Like maybe they can hurt the characters a bit, but I think it's still cool to dive into the possibilities of what that could bring. Just different Spider-Man team ups, because I loved all of his team ups with Daredevil. I've seen, just a couple instances with Deadpool, but like that's another fan favorite one. And I always loved when he would pair up with Johnny Storm. Like it was just such fun dynamics in that route, and I would love to see that.
Well, I know Clay's going to be with me in the chat if he's still in there. For me, Wolverine and Spider-Man is still a combo I
Yeah.
very much have
Yeah,
always
same
loved,
here.
because that is like the little brother, big brother dynamic. But
Henry
like the
Cavill,
little-
Tom Holland.
Yeah, the little brother or the big brother that hates his fucking little brother, and just can't stand him. But no, I think it's tough, right? Because when I look at that would completely be a part of the deal. Each movie, you've had Iron Man in one, you had Nick Fury, and a few other like MCU kind of characters, but like Nick Fury being the biggest one and two. And that, to me, that's not so much Nick Fury, that's more like you're getting Sam Jackson, big star, right? Then three, you got Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Don't do it. Lois Parker, something I need to see on screen the next 5 years. Absolutely family Clay. Like as a kid, I fell in love with the animated series when they had crossovers. It was so good when they'd fight. And then I can't remember the arc, but there's one arc where they get stuck together in the comics on an island. Fuck, it's good. It's so good. And they just have to like live together, and they like become like cavemen. It's awesome. But so like this is where I'm of two minds. For the fourth Spider-Man and the entire trilogy, I think they'll always want an A-tier actor / talent, right? So I don't think they're ever going to be like, hey, you get let's just see, like you get Winter Soldier. I don't think they'd do that, because no offense to Sebastian Stan, the character, but I don't consider him on the A tier of the MCU characters. And I think if they said Bucky's going to be in Spider-Man 4, it'd be like, oh, okay, that's all right. Unless it had like a really good story purpose, I think they go, Sony would be like, no, we want something bigger. So that's the only thing that deters me from Matt Murdock's Daredevil being in more, is like, is Charlie Cox and Daredevil an A talent? But then on the flip side, I don't think if he's in this movie, it's not a mistake. Like he's in there for a reason, not just fan service. And I think if he's starting to strike up a relationship with Peter, that shows something. So I think, like I said, if I pitch that movie, then when it's like a multiple of like a Moon Knight, a Daredevil, I could see that's where we get more Daredevil. I hope. Deadpool, I think, is a very... like that to me is 75 plus. Like I really think that's possible. I just think even something like Wade Wilson coming to like visit him in college, and Peter trying to hide him and not wanting him to like interact with his friends, like and again, I'm always down for this. I know people might be like, oh, it's too much of a business side thing, but like you got to think about promotion. Ryan Reynolds and Tom Holland promoting that movie together, red carpets, Entertainment Tonight, like interviews,
2 heartthrobs. Yeah,
like that will just be so much fun. Like Ryan Reynolds makes fucking promotion for Free Guy fun. Think about what he could do with Tom Holland, So like, I think Deadpool is really give, even if it's somehow Peter in Deadpool, but I think Deadpool is in there. And as what says, an A-tier character would be like Bruce Banner in Spider-Man, something Peter's new teacher in college. I think you get like maybe a what's his name? Oh shit! Why am I
Mr.
forgetting?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
Reed Richards. Thank
Reed
you.
Richards.
Yeah. That's funny. Do you? One, actually, I wonder if they can do that with Hulk, because the distribution rights. I know they own the character, but could they actually say, "Hey, Hulk is going to be in a Spider-Man movie"? Because they don't own the rights to that. That's a Sony movie. But this is a more like deeper question. Do you consider? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you consider Bruce Banner A tier right now?
No, but I would say the Hulk is. Is that a weird way to answer that? Because I think if you asked anyone who Bruce Banner is, maybe not everyone could answer that, but I feel like if you ask anyone who the Hulk is, they could say that. That might be a workaround of that question. I don't know. Would you accept that answer?
No, I agree because I think the thing is Bruce Banner as a character. I don't think Sony would feel like that's a good enough deal. Like, oh, that's cool if you want him in the movie, but like Nick Fury, he was around it quite a bit. He didn't have a huge action scene, but he was near the finale. Iron Man has an action scene. Doctor Strange clearly has an action scene. They don't want Bruce Banner just in his chair. And I suppose that's a good thing to bring up. So that's where I think Bruce will be saved for X-Men, and I think they will maybe do some sort of Hulk Wolverine thing in the future, kind of like how they did the buddy film of Wolverine and Thor and Hulk. Like I'm trying to think, like if you got Deadpool, another S tier one, like I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like a Captain Marvel or somebody too. Like it feels like you got to get a lady in there at some point to be one of the like A tier over on that side. And the other one I've always pitched that I thought would be tons of fun. I think he just is on the line of A tier because his star is bigger. I think Paul Rudd is a. I think that's another good combo. Paul Rudd and Tom Holland in a movie together. Let's say Peter Parker has to go to San Francisco for a school trip or something like that, and he gets into Paul Rudd. I just think that, especially even what we saw in Marvel Zombies, I think that those two characters would have lots of fun together and lots of good dynamics.
He's also a New Yorker, right?
Nope.
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man's
Oh, he's
San
not?
Francisco. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Well,
Yeah.
you got Venom there.
Well, exactly. That's
how
why
you
he's
get the
going
tie.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's more so for me that I don't know if Ant-Man is an A and B, like A character, but I think Paul Rudd he's an A star. Like he's an A tier actor. So I feel like, and there's no offense against Mark Ruffalo, but I don't think Mark Ruffalo, like, okay, here's a weird thing. Like he's an A-lister, but I just mean like when you're looking in the hierarchy of like who would really push ticket sales, I think a lot of people would see Paul Rudd and be like, I'll definitely go see this movie. I think a lot of people would see Mark Ruffalo and be like, oh, that's cool, but I don't know if he's like, man, I gotta go buy tickets because Bruce Banner's in this movie. Hulk, yes, but yeah, I think Ant-Man is one connection I'd really like to see, and plus, hey, maybe even Sam. Sam is Captain America too. Let's do that. That'd be tons of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I love the presence that the character of Captain America brought to the Tom Holland Spider-Man, like especially just seeing him in high school and like he is the video for PE
Yes.
and like just be a good person. And I think that presence is just so fun like everywhere in the MCU, but I think it just fit Tom Holland's Peter Parker just like that there, like the symbol of Captain America. And I think it'd be so great to have the new Captain America portray that.
And then, the only thing I was going to ask is, Clay said, would if Sony did, okay, if this is a Sony-Verse movie produced by Marvel Studios, could we see Sony variants of MCU own characters? I don't think so, because I think they're going to do that Multiverse of Madness or other stuff that they would own. I don't think they'd want to be like, oh, you could see Tom Cruise as Iron Man in a Sony movie. No, I think they'd want that on Disney Plus so you could watch. And I think they will, because there was rumors, me and Chris covered that Tom Cruise was talked about for Iron Man, and I think that's still a chance. And I would love it because he was the first choice, and it fell apart. And I'm glad it did because I like him and everything, but that not the right choice. So I don't think we'd see any MCU variants in a Sony movie. Do you?
No, I did. Yeah, no, I'd say no. Especially not if Peter Parker isn't in that movie. I think that's a stretch. Yeah, no. Just while we were talking about just these different characters appearing, I thought of another one that I thought could fit the Spider-Man trilogy quite well, especially if we have Venom appearing like just with Peter Parker. That's inevitable. We know that's happening, but if that's in the trilogy, I think someone like Silver Sable could fit really well in that trilogy, because that's another character that is kind of neutral, I would say. I don't know like too much about her and her crew, the Wild Pack, but I remember them being like an antagonist in the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. Like when you play as Venom, they were like hunting him down. So I think that's such an easy plot right there. Like you have these people that are just hunting down Venom, and then Venom gets one way or another tied up with Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man is interacting with Silver Sable, and that's just another character that isn't like, you don't need her to appear in the MCU, but I think if she appeared in the Sony-Verse, it'd be really fitting. That's another Marvel character. She's not a Spider-Man character, right? She's just a Marvel character.
I think she's just a Marvel character, but she always gets a pretty associated.
Oh, it says the first appearance was in the Amazing Spider-Man issue
I was gonna say,
265. So there you go.
and the other reason I remember that is because I think she is what is that? She originally was in that Black Cat Silver Sable movie. They were gonna do that. They're gonna do a movie called Black and Silver. So yeah, I think I think she is a Sony owned character. So, but I think you could still see she kind of fits like the Shield vibes, like that sort of route as far as like just what they do with her. So I could see her even she could be set up in the Sony-Verse too and be that equivalent to Shield.
Yeah, and then just a little bit more mercenary feeling. And it's there you get the Shield vibes in the Sony-Verse without actually needing like Nick Fury, and I guess it's now Sword. Is Shield even a thing? No, they're completely dissolved.
Well, no,
they're just kind of Hydra now.
I guess so. Yeah, they're just kind of Hydra. I guess it is Sword because we had that terrible guy in WandaVision, that villain. Remember?
Oh God, Tyler, whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but yeah, no, that's not good. So, anyone else to shout out on this?
Let's see. I had a little list open. I had
a list, cheat
list.
list.
Not really. I mean, I was talking about Fantastic Four, and the more I think about Fantastic Four, the more I just need Silver Surfer in the MCU at some point in time, and I think we're so far away from that. But when that day eventually comes, it's gonna be like my Ghost Rider moment for Taylor. I'm gonna be so excited.
I think at least we're closer than we are farther away. Like that's what I'll say. I'll say that.
Good political answer.
Yeah, I think you got lots of Eternals popping off. You got Guardians popping off. I think they still might wait a little bit, but with Fantastic Four comes, and plus, I actually do think Silver Surfer could just get introduced in something else. Doesn't have to be Fantastic Four, right? So, I don't think you're I don't want to for sure say to you next 5 years, but I feel confident in saying next 5 years.
Played by Billy Crudup. Give me that. Come on. Can you imagine?
Played by Billy Crudup. Just pretty much the exact same ripoff of
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, he just does the same thing. They make him blue too. It's
big cock just waiting around on this surfboard.
Him and Naked Defoe fight from our predictions and stuff like that. So
oh my god, that would surpass my endgame moment. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. All right. Depends how much you believe Agent of Shields can. Yeah. Well, let's take an ad break, and then we just got a few smaller topics, and we will be right back.
That was our first topic, eh?
Well, yeah, it was a whole spread around topic, you know. So, let's see. So yeah, this is. I don't think I I didn't make you watch it, because it's nothing that big or whatnot. But so there's a few things that came out. There's some interviews of okay, there's gonna be some directors from about Boba Fett. No one that big, but they've done this, they've done that. Okay, cool. And then it was 7 episodes. That's confirmed now. So it's gonna start December 29th. And then they had a 30-second teaser. They're showing off some old stuff, but then they also showed that it's been confirmed that we're gonna get flashbacks to, I imagine, him escaping the Sarlacc pit, because it's there's some sand and there's people finding him, and then it looks like he's in a BAFTA tank. So obviously this show is going to be about it's the book of Boba Fett, it's him taking over Jabba's past, stuff like that. But how do you feel about us doing flashbacks, and how much do you think we would actually do that? Do you think we'd get a whole episode dedicated to it? Do you think it would be throughout the series, or do you think it would just be a quick thing here, it's just here and here and here and that's it?
Anytime someone's beating on some armor, they just get some PTSD flashbacks like Mando did. I personally wouldn't want it to just be constrained to one episode. I think if that one episode, I could see that one episode going bad. I feel like it'd be one where it's this is my week's episode, I get this one. So I would want them sprinkled in, and because I want that, I'm gonna predict that. I'm gonna predict that they're sprinkled in. I don't think it's gonna be triggered by just some blacksmithing though, like Mando was.
Boom, boom. But I like that we're gonna cover it. I think it just fills more time to the show, because I am interested to see the whole. I know Taylor's about the mafia life and what's it gonna do and all this. It's gonna bring all this great underworld stuff to Star Wars, and it could be. But I still think tons of people have interest in Boba Fett as far as what happened to him, where has he been, why was he just hanging on the desert with no armor for years, like Carl Vance had it, why didn't he just go get it, he's this badass, never did. Like, there's some stuff to be answered, and I think that you'll get some kind of classic cameos. Like, I don't know who else is gonna be left on Tatooine, because I almost said Jabba, but I forgot Jabba got fucking choked out by Leia, so he ain't cameoing anytime soon. But yeah, I'm very interested. I think that, what is your excitement level right now going into Spider-Man? Or fuck,
Pretty high.
what's your excitement going into Boba Fett? Because 7 episodes. I think both seasons of Mandos were 10, so it's 3 less of that. So
pretty like lukewarm. Like, it's just calm waters. I'm not it's scratching at the bit for this one. I don't know. It's Boba Fett has been a character that I think I just love the idea of what he was, a badass looking bounty hunter. Like, that on paper just sounds so cool. And as a young buck that I once was, just like the look of him was really appealing, and I think it's really easy to like a character like that. As I've gotten older and you start like, I don't know, just dissecting what the character actually is, it's like, oh, this is just a really lame character, and it's nice that he's getting a bit of a fix up, from his appearance in Mando. Now he's getting his own series. I look at it as like a possible redemption for the character, because I think he was just so done dirty. Like his supposed death in episode 6. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming we're getting a flashback that'll explain what actually happened in that Sarlacc pit. But no, I'm not really excited for it. I'm gonna watch it, and I think if I wasn't like podcast reviewing it, I could see myself just like not watching it right away. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it. I just think it wouldn't be enough to pull me in week by week. Yeah, no, Star Wars sucks.
I think it's what
about you?
I think it's better to rip the Band-Aid and give it in episode 1. Ooh, that'd be interesting if just the full episode, of flashback episode. Yeah, but then it's almost
like clone flashbacks. He's got like PTSD memories that aren't even his.
First episode's just him of the kid. Like, it's him as the kid for years. Like, some Clay would be like, best episode yet. But no, like, the argument against Clay, like, I think that's a good idea for us as fans to be like, okay, we get the Sarlacc, like everything right away. But then it's like you make people wait for it. I would personally like... I think what you do, and it might not be a popular answer, if you do the first episode and maybe 2 or 3 is like someone says some line and then he thinks back to where it was. I guess you could, like you said, you could literally stretch out and do Mando style throughout the show. And they might do that because this is a spinoff of Mandalorian, right? So it might just be like every episode you get little glimpses of it. But I would be down for episode 1. That would be great. But again, it's almost like for someone like Kirklin, it's like you could watch, just be done with it. But it's, like I said, I'm interested of the show. It's just that trailer didn't get me any more excited than I was hoping I would be. It's just, and again, I don't know if I need a full-on Boba Fett show. Like, I almost would have been more excited if they announced, hey, we're just going to do like a Disney Plus original movie. Like, we're going to just do a 2-hour balls to walls action movie. But we'll see. It's, I don't know. It's, I loved Mando season 2, so they got their trust in me now. And even Mando season 1, I really enjoyed. So we will, I don't know. I'll be excited. I'm expecting to like the pilot enough, and we'll go from there, So
yeah, I think what's interesting for like my hype levels on the show is I'm like the most interested in just seeing like the politics of like him running this like crime syndicate that used to be ran by Jabba. I think that idea is just really cool, and it's such a different like reason to be hyped on the show that I would have if I was a kid. Because if I was a kid, I'm like, oh, I just want Boba with like his flamethrower on his wrist, just kicking ass and shooting guns. I don't even necessarily like need that in the show. I want some really cool, just clever dialogue and some good crime syndicate stuff. So.
Yeah. Cool action, a couple surprises here and there.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't. I guarantee you he's going to bump in those guys that Taylor always loves when they're just like, I have the death sentence on 12. I guarantee you that might happen, and Boba might fucking kill him. I just like, maybe that would be fun. I don't know. It's just, and maybe that's a good thing that I have, because I feel like Mando season 1, I had such high expectations, and there's some of that maybe that had to do with me disliking a little bit. I did have some problems with that. With Mandalorian season 2, I remember I had my expectations of I'm excited, and then like the pilot happened, and I liked the pilot enough, but I was like, okay, it's more of Mando season 1, which I liked enough, but I didn't absolutely love. And then as the season went on, I just loved it more and more. So I think with you and I having like maybe lower height for Boba Fett will help in the situation, because it's just
Yeah.
like we're expecting a little bit of it, and it will be cool to see the Sarlacc pit and all that stuff. Like I know we always joke about with Star Wars nostalgia and showing off, look at this cool thing, and I guess but I'm fine to get that story, especially, and I am happy. We always joke about him being a pathetic character, because I do. He lost to a blind Han Solo, but at the end of the day, I know this is a character that millions of people love, and there's tons of stuff in the like Legends book of people why it's like, hey, I really fell in love with this character, so I'm happy for them. So as Bob says, I think a feature like Mando movie still on Disney Plus would be great. Maybe a team up event could be a movie. 100%. I think I'm very much waiting for the day. Kirkland, who do you think we'll get to first, Marvel or Disney that does an original Disney Plus movie? Or sorry, Star Wars or Marvel?
Star Wars or Marvel? Probably Marvel, honestly, at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right, as they fucking do like 18 million things a year. But there's, like I said, my hope is, like, hey, we can't do a series, but we're going to do Darth Maul in the movie and just see what the fuck was going on for him a little bit, like, because some stuff I don't think you always need a series, and I think a movie would be great too. But I would be more excited if Star Wars Disney Plus crossover was a movie. Toro Calican is still alive and fights Boba. Oh, don't bring up Toro Callahan. I don't know,
You
Espub.
better not fucking appear in the show.
Yeah, Espub, I don't know if you're listening to the era, but yeah, we absolutely hated Toro Calican, because fuck that character. But yeah, I'd be down. I'd be down for you.
You'd be down? Well, fuck that.
Doing the movie, not Toro. Yeah, you're stuck with me now, partner. Let's see. Boba Fett coming out December. Same thing. That's literally, as we're recording this, a month away, Kirkland. A month away, we got a Boba Fett show.
Yeah. Another crazy thing.
Yeah, we go from Hawkeye to, we got Spider-Man, and then we get Matrix, and then Boba Fett starts, and all during that we have the new season of Dexter happening.
Crazy time to be alive, man.
And then Morbius come January, we got Morbius popping off. And then again, I keep saying this, but we're just getting that much closer to the Batman. Like, I'm excited for Spider-Man, but Batman is a sniff away. Like, it's just like, oh man, we're so close. I think that might have been the first episode I listened to you. Oh, that's good. So that for Toro, that's good. That shows you stuck around with our complaining, because we do a lot of it and stuff. But yeah, Toro was something else. But you know what something else might be is apparently Marvel is making an MMO. I had the article and now I deleted the link accidentally. So I'm going to throw it to Kirkland Patsev. Obviously, MMOs are very popular with some franchises. I don't know if you probably have at least seen this, that DC has had one for quite a few years, like DC Universe, and it's still going. Marvel had one. It was called like Marvel Omega or something like that. And I played a little bit, but it shut down. But I remember, because I pitched that to you guys, because like, well, we don't have Ultimate Alliance, but this could be the closest thing we have. And it was fun enough. But how would you feel? I'm going to try and find the article. How would you feel like, would that... Like, and apparently it's okay. So I got it. Apparently it's being made by the DC Universe online developer Dimensional Inc. I'm on a roll tonight. Studios is working on a Marvel MMO. This project is led by Jack Ermert, who designed and helmed City of Heroes and currently leads DC UO. So at least it's good backing, as far as this is a guy who's been doing this for a while with DC. It works. It has a following. It's one of their long-term projects, and it most likely has a release of earliest 2023. So I feel like I know your answer, because we're busy guys and we barely have enough time to play some things, but where would you be on a Marvel MMO?
I would most likely be nowhere near it. I am not one that's built for MMO games. I've tried them, I tried World of Warcraft, a couple friends back in the day. It's just not it's not for me. And as you were just prefacing, the lack of time I have now, I think if I was a young kid that had all my summers off to just do whatever the hell I wanted, I still wouldn't be playing MMO, just because it's not for me.
Yeah.
I don't know though, like saying that if there's some insane gameplay that really appeals to me, you can ride on the Silver Surfers board. Something, I don't know. I think it would have to be pretty damn big to win me over, just because I'm really not an MMO guy, but it's cool that it's out there, because as you mentioned, MMOs definitely have an audience. They're big for a lot of players, and why not have a Marvel one?
Yeah, it's a Claysays I would be willing to start in its 30-day free trial. Yeah, I think I would definitely. I think what I would probably twist Kirkland and Taylor's arm to do if there was a free trial, I'd probably get them to twist it and try it a little bit, just because that's always content for the podcast and review it a bit. But
Could stream it, yeah. it could
yeah,
be
I could
fun there.
stream it and stuff like that. But I don't know. As Bubs, I can't handle that many buttons and icons covering 3/4 of the screen in order to attack someone.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be opposed. I'm not like Kirkland that I could get into, but I feel like I remember from maybe high school to about like, I don't know, 6 to 8 years after that, anytime you see something really cool announced and it's like, oh, it's an MMO. You're like, oh, okay, the hype dies. Like, I remember like all those hype trailers for the Knights of the Old Republic games when they were doing the MMO. I'm like, I just want the old thing back. So, because I think at the end of the day, I do like the idea, and I know it's such a big thing with games, right? Games serves like the world you can live in, you can create, you can change everything. But as I've said for years, I am a guy that loves the story of it, and I do still like a closed chat. Like, here's the beginning of your journey, here's the end of your journey, pretty much. You can jump back in this world, you can do a side mission, you can replay it, but here's your story. And that's where, for me, MMO, I would definitely dabble in it. I tried DC Universe, but I think it's this thing as well. It's just time, and it's just that's the unfortunate thing of even DC Universe and Marvel Omega, which I played, and I like them both enough. I just go, okay, in the world right now where I'm an adult, how much time do I have, and can I use my bandwidth on this? And it's usually no. Like I still haven't finished Guardians. My plan is to finish Guardians. I want to in
I still
November.
haven't beaten it yet.
Yeah, my plan is okay, at least December, because I'm going to be writing a new script that maybe people will see in the near future. But I want to finish that before I go into the scripts, just so it's like checked off. But that's the way. It's just like I feel like you got to have a lot of time, and like that MMO would have to be your only game, where it's just like I'd rather play like the Marvel Midnight Suns coming up and give that a chance. I'd rather play, if that fighting game is real, I'd rather play some of those where it's like, okay, I could play this for extended amount of days, hours, and be done with it and move on. Gotham Knights, stuff like that. Where an MMO, I don't think it's bad. It's just you got to commit time. But like I think you got to commit time, because I was going to say it had a fun enough aspect, almost like a Call of Duty, where we could drop in and have like a really fun mission. There's potential of that, but again, it's almost like we still have Marvel Alliance for that, so we could really do that online if we really wanted to, right? Just like get the boys together and like let's go beat up some guys in arcade style. So I would definitely be interested to see it. I definitely would download it if it was free and give it a try, just to, especially you never know what's out there, and you never know what the gimmick might be, of characters or the world or stuff like that. So
Yeah. Like I said, there's definitely many things that could win me over. I'm a tough talker when I say that they can never get me on there. There's definitely something, and many things that could get me on there. But
yeah, this man wasn't going to own a Switch at one point, and here he is.
I was
buying a bunch
very
of Switch
against
games.
the Switch.
Yeah.
I'm still anti-Nintendo. Still don't follow their business decisions. Come on. Why take off All Stars? What is the purpose there? What is it costing you to have I almost call it PlayStation All Stars, Mario All Stars? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Fucking Nintendo.
Get PlayStation All Stars too. Doesn't have to be PlayStation. Just throw it up there. Great Switch game. So yeah, well, we did it. That was pretty much a big Spidey episode, but I'm happy we did, because I feel like we covered the gamut now, and I feel like the next time we did the predictions, we got this news. I feel like the next time we'll have a big conversation about this is after the movie now, so I feel like we've covered most of the bases on Spider-Man, but who knows? Again, we got these Kevin Feige interviews, and I guarantee you that there could be a return cast on this if he comes out and say, yeah, Amy's full of shit. Like, none of that stuff's happening, So I'm very interested, because the premiere happens, I think it's this Friday is December 3rd, right? Yeah, fuck. The premiere happens this Friday, and then reviews start coming out. So they're gonna start talking and stuff like that. So yeah, it's getting close. So it's gonna be a fun time, and I'm getting excited. We just got confirmed that another GeekVerse member is gonna be joining us for this mid-review. So that's gonna be interesting. So yeah, stay tuned. So Kirklin, anything to say as we end this?
I'm excited to see how wrong my inklings are, where we're going in this trilogy. I feel like we're gonna know so much just by seeing No Way Home, and just like, even if we don't know what the trilogy could be, I feel we'll have some flavor. We'll have some inkling of what's going to be happening.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same way as how Endgame ends. Like, oh, Sam has a shield now. It's like you don't know exactly where it's gonna go, but you got an idea of how it's happening. As so full plot leak online by Saturday. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be. I know the day of because like fucking Heinz, our time gets to see it like 12 p.m. Like they got in America, they're like 3:30 showings over there. It's like fuck you guys, you know.
Jeez.
Like yeah, that's that. I hate that. I would love that over here, but I think that I don't know if that whole week, but I think that day for sure. Probably the whole week I'll be off Twitter. I'll go on there to promote our episodes and stuff, but I think I'll just turn off notifications and I'll check the messages so I can talk to GOA people. We always talk about like content and stuff like that. Hashtag content. But I think I will be going pretty dark because I don't want to see no blurry images. As you know, somebody that's watched a few League movies before, this one's a little too special. That almost happened with Endgame. Endgame, the entire like apparently like portal scene or most of it leaked, and now knowing that, I'm so glad I didn't watch it. But I remember there was a couple days where that was on there. I was like, oh my god, like this movie's live and you could watch it. But I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. And I
Can you
was happy I did
imagine
that?
getting it spoiled of like Cap getting the hammer? Oh,
Oh yeah,
that is such like a special moment. I couldn't imagine.
no, I couldn't imagine all either. You know, so well,
Guess Bubs
ladies-
is gonna know the whole movie by
Oh
Saturday.
yeah, he already does. He was on set the whole time. He's probably just Tobey Maguire. That's who he is. He's our biggest fan. Toby, come on. But yeah, we will be back when you're listening to this tomorrow because we have Hawkeye. You know, so it's gonna be very exciting. Can't wait. Love the show so far. Comic book versions will be dropping. So we promise when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
Peace.